Hey, Shadowman, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. All right, I'm just getting the news stories wrapped up, kind of sorted for tonight. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Monday. I apologize for having missed Sunday night's stream. I almost might have missed tonight. I fell asleep and Sock told me if I didn't wake myself up, she wasn't going to wake me up. All right. Think everything's good. Let's kick this thing. Wait, hold on. I'm dropping stuff. Oh, wait. I know what I forgot to do. Forgot to turn on the screen share. Hold on. I gotta fix the screen share. Hang on one second. Let's see. Hold on. I'm here. I realized I forgot to turn on something. Let's see. And Sock's back here heckling me. Like, maybe that's a sign. Alright, I think I got it now. Let's see. Hey, there we go. Alright. What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are having a fantastic Monday. No, today's Wednesday. Dude, my week is jacked. So that really difficult assessment I was doing a penetration test against a Kubernetes environment, it was a beatdown because, so during the other streams, we've been doing Kubernetes, right? We're going through it, looking at it, tweaking some knobs in there. These guys left no knob unturned. It's wild. And they've added additional automations and authentication, basically like gates into it. It's wild. So there was so much to go through. I rewrote that damn report 4 times practically, going through and having to double check everything and make sure I had stuff sorted properly. It was a beatdown. Hey, Mark, thanks for coming online. Mark Tuta Draws. What's up, man? All right, let me see. I am just sorting through some of the news stories real fast here. Let me see. All right, so we got some news stories about Kraken. The AI Safety Institute went and put out some research they had done. They do a lot of analysis of cybersecurity capabilities of AI models. So they've been testing them against CTF ranges, but they're not like your standard CTF range you're going to see over at like Hack the Box. They're huge and they're in depth. So got a little bit of story about them. What else we got here? This guy, oh, he's funny. I'm not going to give away the plot on this one. Let's see. We got some more Russian threat actors targeting home internet routers. But hold on, this needs to go with another article here. What was this one? No, this one I want to cover. Maybe we'll do it after that one. I'm going to save this for last. If we get to the video, we'll look at this. But this is an interesting video about right to repair on tractors. And actually, I know some folks that own John Deere tractors, and they've had to go through and legit hack them because John Deere made it damn near impossible to do maintenance on them. But there was a big lawsuit that came up about that. Let's see. Polkadot got hacked. We'll follow that up there. Ah, here we go. I think this should go right about here. Command injection in Wuzza. Some more threat actors. Actually, hold on. Here's the light one to start things off. So Take-Two Interactive saw their stock value rise by about $1 billion in market cap after hackers stole internal data and demanded a ransom payment. And so they didn't pay it, and they released the information. But then now everybody knew exactly how much money they were making off of GTA 5. So their stock went up. Yeah. I guess well played, Rockstar. But I just want you also to know, if you're a GTA fan, this is why you will probably never see GTA 6. They make such an insane amount of money off of GTA 5. It's fiscally irresponsible for them to release GTA 6. It's just the way it is. It's going to be World of Warcraft, right? It's never going to die. They're going to perpetually keep GTA 6 in production, right? That's just the way it's going to be. Let's see. Anything else in here? OpenAI had a new announcement. We got a little goodie from Daniel Miessler. And Microsoft being Chinchi. All right. Yeah. Cool. Let's get started for tonight. I'm surprised how many news articles I was trying to find, because the news thread didn't have a lot coming into, I think, this morning, and then all of a sudden it's like boom. So now we're kind of oversaturated. All right, so quick follow-up on Kraken. After they got popped, we're currently being extorted by actually no, this was a different one, but I thought it was interesting. So Kraken security update. This is from Nick Percoco over at X. Said we're currently being extorted by a criminal group threatening to release videos of our internal systems with client data shown if we do not comply with their demands. So it's important to start with the most important points. Well, that is important. Our systems were never breached. Funds were never at risk. We will not pay the criminals, and we will never negotiate with bad actors. You can't negotiate with terrorists. Kraken identified and shut down 2 instances of inappropriate access to a limited client support data set. So in February of 2025, that was a year ago, dude. Over a year ago. We received a tip from a trusted source regarding a video shared on a criminal form that appeared to showcase access to our client support system. We immediately launched an investigation and quickly identified the individual involved as a member of our support team, and their access was revoked immediately. A full investigation was conducted, additional security controls were put in place, and a limited number of affected clients were notified. I mean, I hope that is the case, but that's always kind of also like boilerplate in here. Hold on. By the way, if you didn't know this, you can do this and it will automatically pull information about this. Because I have a question. Who was the support team member mentioned at the start? I have to test a theory. All right, let's see. All right, so after they notified the limited set of clients, we've been collaborating with industry partners and law enforcement to investigate and disrupt insider recruitment efforts targeting not only crypto companies, but also gaming and telecommunications organizations. Oh, man. Oh, I don't think I saved it. Dang it. Okay. Hold on. I got to find a follow-on article to this in just a second. Most recently, we received another tip. Along with new videos showing similar activity, we quickly identified the individual involved and terminated their access. As before, we acted immediately to revoke revoke their access, conduct a full investigation, and notify a small number of affected clients. Across both incidents, only a small number of clients' accounts were potentially viewed, approximately 2,000, accounting for 0.02% of the total clients. Shortly after access was terminated, we began to receive extortion demands. The criminals threatened to distribute materials in both the January 2025 incident and in the recent incident to media outlets and on social media if we didn't comply. We will not pay these criminals. So based on intelligence gathered across both incidents, along with extensive ongoing analysis, we believe there is sufficient evidence to support the identification and arrest of those responsible. Oh, there it is. That's a bold claim, Cotton. We are actively working with federal law enforcement across multiple jurisdictions to pursue all individuals. Due to the ongoing investigation, can't share a lot of details. Let's see. Security of our clients' highest priority. Yeah, we got that. Okay. Okay, they did not publicly release who the person was. Look at that. Hey, Guy and Deefus and Band. What is up, my gentle mans, my gentle hackers? I'll disclose the number of times you've been popped on stream if you don't immediately pay me $1 million. Go ahead. All right. Oh, touche, band. Touche. Yeah. Just increment the poop counter. Gotcha. Way to go. Oh, man. Okay, so following on this was from Kraken, Crypto Bros. We got a follow-up on another one. Apparently, the Polkadot bridge for crypto got compromised. 250K stolen, 1 billion tokens minted, and another reminder that security is not optional. So who is this from? This is from AJ. Who is this? I just said AJ. Software reverse engineering professional, crypto and Web3 educator, cricket enthusiast. Oh, you had me up until the third point there. That's going to be a minus 20 points for Gryffindor. Let's see. Last week I wrote about the Solana Dex attack. Oh yeah, we did. That was the one we talked about. Yeah, we talked about that during last week's stream. There's another one though that hits differently. Hackers just exploited Polkadot's cross-chain bridge, minted 1 billion DOT tokens out of thin air, and walked away with about $250,000 worth of Ethereum. Nice. Keep it. Ethereum's kind of low right now. Keep it. You could get some more. Security keeps proving itself again and again. You can build the best technology in the world, and yet one small mistake can change everything in seconds. I mean, that's been the name of the security game for a long time, bro. Long time. I'll accept crypto as well. I will too. Maybe I'll go set that up someday, just for the lulz. So the important thing is the Polkadot mainnet, native DOT, and all parachains are completely safe. The exploit happened inside Hyperbridge, the bridge Polkadot uses to connect to the Ethereum network. So quick refresher. In fact, I need this because I don't remember how bridges work either. It's been a long time since I read up on them. So blockchains are isolated by default. Polkadot and Ethereum can't talk to each other natively. So Bridge solves this by locking your real tokens on chain A, minting a wrapped coin on chain B. Oh, okay, they're doing coin wrappers. Got it. Hyperbridge is Polkadot's official bridge to Ethereum. It uses cryptographic proofs to verify every cross-chain message is legit before acting on it. So first thing to do is the user locks their native tokens, their dots in this case, and then Hyperbridge mints the equivalent wrapped tokens W dot over on the Ethereum chain. And then as the user burns the wrapped tokens on Ethereum, Hyperbridge releases the original native tokens back to original users on Polkadot. So they get locked into basically, like, think of it like a crypto vault, right? And then as those get spent, they get released back into the environment. So it's more of a, what is it? It's more of a cycle. So the tokens are never created nor destroyed in here. In fact, the only way to destroy them is to put them into a crypto key and lose the key. Hey, Icarus, what's up, man? No one cares about security in crypto. Especially when rug pulls. I know, right? Hyperbridge sounds very trust me, bro. I know. Although being in security for as long as I have, there's a lot of trust me bros out there. All right, so how did they pull this off? So every cross-chain message sent through Hyperbridge needs a valid proof like a digital signature.
Like you got a pair.
Hey, Gumby. So let me read this again. Every cross-chain message sent through Hyperbridge needs a valid proof like a digital signature proving the message is real and hasn't been used before. The attackers found that the handler v1 contract, the part that validates the proofs, had a bug. Well, no kidding. When only a single data entry was submitted, the system stored an all zeros value instead of checking the real proof. It then accepted the message as legitimate anyway. A single data entry? I wonder what they specify as a data entry here. Today, I was finally able to prove my computer that cross-site scripting is more than just a pop-up. Oh, prove to your company, sorry. Prove to your company that cross-site scripting is more just a pop-up. You can imagine how quickly they can react on years of old cross-site scripting vulns they realize can take over admin accounts using them. Nice! Nice! Cross-site scripting in and of itself is not a terribly huge issue. Actually, I'll take it back. It's one of those ones where it is always, it's like a grenade, right? A grenade isn't going to do a whole lot, but if you put it in the right spot, it'll probably do a whole lot, right? Cross-site scripting is kind of like the same thing. If you can just kind of lob that sucker in there and start getting remote access to a system, like through a web interface, right? Then, yeah, that's pretty bad. So, hey, you're all good, Gumby. Oh, good, sir. All right, so hold on. So they said when a single data entry was submitted, system stored an all zero value instead of checking the real proof. So the attacker did an old, already used valid proof from a previous transaction and recycled it. The system couldn't tell the difference. So this is called a replay attack, yeah. I wish he'd go into a little bit more technical details. Let me see if he does before I'll hold my comments. Every token contract has rules about who can create new tokens. That who is the admin. Normally, only the project team holds this access. The attacker just became the admin. So in one command, 1 billion DOT tokens were minted instantly on Ethereum, then immediately dumped into Uniswap, the Uniswap pool for real Ethereum. Here's the twist everyone's talking about, though. So imagine dumping 1 billion tokens into a market where barely anyone is buying. The price collapsed instantly. So the DOT token on Ethereum had extremely shallow liquidity, meaning the pool couldn't absorb a dump of that size without crashing the price to near zero. Oh, damn. So by the time their contract sold, everything was extracted. They got approximately 108 Ethereum tokens, or roughly 237K. Oh, that's bad. Market impact, I don't really care about. What was Hyperbridge's response? So as of this writing, there's been no official response, and this was released. When was this? I think it's kind of dumb. It shows it at the very end here. Let me see. April 13th. So this was 2 days ago. All right, so the bigger lesson here is you can use the most advanced technology in the world, build the best protocols, hire the best engineers, but one unchecked edge case in a single function, a root verification that failed was given, just one data entry. Dude, that's what always happens a lot of times. Anytime there's vulnerabilities like this, it's these weird, odd root cases. That's awesome. All right, hang on. Let me see what else I had here. Wouldn't that be, instead of use the force Luke band, wouldn't that be like use the alert function Luke for the cross-site scripting master? Post-mortem is where we got lucky. We had no operating capital, so there was very little to steal. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, because I said cross-site scripting has to hit the right spot. Yeah. What, you never bullseyed womp rats in your T16 back home on your desert farm? All right, so here was a really weird one here. I tried to do a little bit of background checking on this. Yes, Rabbit, I'm a big nerd. All right. AI Red Team startup breached a random Y Combinator startup, posted about it, tagged this guy, Zach Corman, as if I supported it. I call it unethical behavior and false promises of security, and my goal is to make it better. Exposing a startup to show off your skills isn't okay, right? Let's see. Well, what company did the hackings? What was the name of it? Because now the site doesn't even appear online anymore. So it's not explicitly named. Somebody knew who they were, though, because it's like this. Hacking team, obviously. Hang on, let me kill the background music real quick. And let me see. Where's desktop audio? Turn that on. Let me bring this up.
And what stage are they at?
Oh.
This AI red team company posted online calling out a random YC startup for a bunch of security flaws. Their post is super dramatic. They have a bunch of details here. Oh, their backend is wide open. It's misconfigured. You can access everything through these queries. There's no protection in place. Onboarding broken. Everything's exposed to the internet, apparently. And then they say, oh, this is a company that's selling this category. I'm not going to tell you. They're handling sensitive data they don't have any control over.
I do appreciate how much he redacted, even like what the selling of the category was, because there's not a ton of companies in Y Combinator, so it would have been kind of easy to identify them.
Right. They then explained that they disclosed it 48 hours ago. According to them, the response was that they'll wait a few weeks to fix it. And they make this dramatic point that this is live production.
We disclosed this 48 hours ago. That's not how responsible disclosure works. And if you're making some kind of like an AI red teaming system, you think you might want to know what is considered common, let's, for lack of a better term, call the common law of responsible disclosure.
Infrastructure. And then they tagged me. I don't know these people. I've never met them before. I don't know the startup they're talking about. And yet here I am tagged. They actually made the same post a couple of hours earlier and it didn't really get any traction.
So YC something exposes major European documents. We were able to access real customer something documents, create user accounts on prod, and see internal database metrics.
So they just posted again with a different, more inflammatory angle. They also have all these replies saying, wow, that's so crazy. That are all accounts that have never posted before. So that's pretty fishy. And look, they even tagged me in the other thread as well. So look at who this company is. And they say, we break systems before attackers do, continuous security tailored for startups. So they're like an AI red team product of sorts. We break systems before attackers do, contact us before we contact you.
Okay, so this is really, really shit tier. And the reason I say that is because security companies, especially the ones that do offensive security, are built on a very, very big foundation of trust. Once you lose that trust, it's damn near impossible to get it back. And this is some company saying, we will go randomly hack your ass illegally and then maybe go post about it, right? They're done before they even started. Hey, Mohammed, thanks for coming online. Written by Claude Haiku. Yeah, probably. All the tweets probably were. Wow, this is so amazing. LOL, OMG, OMG barbecues. Yeah, redacts the name but still leaves their company logo. I don't care if you didn't redact the company logo. Them, the guys that did this, flame the crap out of them. They deserve what they've wrought on themselves. The other company, hey, okay, that's cool. You could have done this so much smarter, though. You could have talked to them. Say, hey, by the way, we're helping these startups stay secure. We went through it. We engaged with them. Even if you got to massage the facts a little bit. You go through and you say, hey, by the way, we worked with them. We ran our stuff against them. We found this stuff. Could have been real bad. We stopped the real bad. And now we're working better together. They could have done this so smart. It was a good plan executed like dog do. Dog doo-doo. All right, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Rant off. Let's see what else he's got.
What are you, the fucking mob? Why? You think I'm on your side? Absolutely not. I have been critical of YC.
I love that that's how... It's like, okay, rant off. And he's like, what are you, the fucking mob? Yes, rant sponsored by Jacko. I am appalled that you would think I write Rust, band. Appalled, sir.
Because I believe there's a systematic problem that the founders and the people buying from YC companies need to be aware of. I've also been critical of YC companies that have behaved unethically. They are committing fraud.
Remember we talked about Delve, the AI security compliance company that was fabricating all the SOC 2 and GDPR stuff? That was a YC company. Pretty sure.
Or they are misrepresenting something intentionally. I also have gone after some open source projects that have used security as their selling point. So a project that says we are OpenClaw but secure, it's pretty fair that I can test it and go, well, no, you're not. I've also gone after a big company in that way, which would be NVIDIA. What I haven't done is gone and tried to breach every YC company as if they should be a target so that I can gain clout on the internet. Having bad security is not really unique. Does this company that you're
I want to say something about that, about chasing clout on the internet. There is so much of that, especially so much around, I mean, really every space, but you see so much of that clout chasing. Like, I saw this fool post something, and it said, breaking, here's how you can use your favorite AI tool, I forget which one he called out, for free with like, what was it? Oh, llama. And I was like, breaking? Son, I don't think you know what that word means. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
targeting even have customers? Maybe, but how many? And what stage are they at? And what's going on? 48 hours ago, they said they'd get to it soon. And then you just blast them on the internet. If you feel that their response was too slow, there are ways of achieving this. You could have sent me a DM and had me look at it and me talk to those founders, for example. Because maybe the founders didn't understand something. Maybe they need help on it. I don't know. I don't know this story at all. What is not cool is just going, haha, I'm going to blast you and call you out, all so that you can get people to go to your AI Red Team startups page. And this is why I'm not naming the AI cybersecurity company here, because I don't want them to get clout out of this. But I do need to be calling out the fact that you have badly misunderstood
I think I'm going to see, actually, I'm going to reserve my statement. I want to see what he says.
me if you think that I am just going to target random startups as some angry, vindictive person. I am trying to protect people. Of course, the company in question does look like they have some security problems, but there's all of these things that we don't know. So I've reached out to the founders of that company. I said, look, hey, I don't associate with what this company did at all. I hope you fix your issues, but don't worry about it. I'm not about to blow you up or anything, because it might look like I would and you might be scared that I would. If they get back to me, even offer, like, I'll help. If you guys don't know how to do it, let's jump on a call. Okay, for free, because I'm actually trying to help. Whoever is behind this can get the fuck out of this industry. And
So I'm not terribly familiar with Zach Corman, but that's a solid effort. I hope they take him up on it. But I'm of a slightly different opinion. He should have named and shamed the AI Red Team company, because their trust should have been burned. If you think about it, the entire internet is built on systems of trust, trusting to something, right? And if this company's been proven that they're not trustworthy, they should have been called out. The company that was the unfortunate, in this case, really victim here, where they got compromised and like, hey, look, we got in here, we stole a bunch of your data, and now we're using that for clout. Oh, but we didn't do bad stuff with it. No, it's okay. No, so it wasn't totally legal. It was a prank, bro. It was a prank. Yeah, them redact all their stuff. This company, I would have taken a different approach. I'm a little bit more of a jerk. I would have named and shamed them. I was like, yeah, these guys, screw these guys right here, because they are making a profession that I've been in for the last 8 years and have fantasized about being in quite literally since the wait, hold on, how old would I have been? Since the 5th grade of being in, right? And so I would like for it to continue being that way. Hey, Squanick, thanks for coming online. All right, let me see what else Mr. Corman here has to finish up with, and then we'll hop on to the next article.
I'm pissed off that I even have to make this video. I have a different video I want to make where I'm calling out some very high-level CISOs and major AI security startups that are engaged in unethical behavior, and I want to call that out.
Do it, Zach.
I don't want to target a random YC company who is trying their best. They don't mean any malice here. So please, for the people who follow me, I need you to understand this difference. I am after high-level unethical behavior, people who are grifting and misrepresenting. I am not after people who maybe just are not good at security, especially when that's not their main claim. That's it. This AI...
Love it. I love that take. So... okay, good. That finished up real quick. Yeah, there's I'll give you a hint. Somewhere in the company, every company sucks at security. And if you're a startup, your company's real small. So that section takes up a big chunk of the pie, right? These guys might have been onto something really cool if they had just approached it differently. It was very clear they did not understand anything beyond the technical aspects of red teaming. Believe it or not, there is a lot of politics that goes into it. It's a bit like you know, the old joke of like being a politician is telling somebody that their baby is ugly, but they feel great about it. It's the same thing. You got to come in and tell these companies like, hey, your network, which I know you guys have lovingly slaved over rightfully for a paycheck for the last 10 years, is hot garbage and there's a lot of problems with it you got to fix, right? And that happens more frequently than you would think. Imagine if the AI Red Team company got hacked. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. All right. Hang on. Gumby sent something. What did he send here? Shut up, baby. I know it.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, any tips on get my beard to look that sexy daddy Blaise ooh-woo?
I regret showing you Solo Leveling Abridged. And the only tip I have is start working like 23 hours a day and don't sleep and just forget to shave for about 4 months. Well, actually, that is phase 2. Phase 1 is you get a nice base beard, and then you do like the 6 month to a year of like just not sleeping and not shaving. And then it just kind of grew in for me. I wish I knew I had any other tips for you there. That's it. Ah, shit, I dropped my mouse. Come back, mouse. Only thing I don't like about a wireless mouse, I drop this thing so much. And there's no cable to catch it. All right. So let's take a look at this real quick. So the AI Safety Institute came through and said they have evaluated Claude Mythos and have kind of rated its cyber capabilities. Now, I hate to say this, but also I'm old enough to remember when cyber meant something very different. It ran away to get some cheese. That's right. Let's see. All right, so what did they say here? So we conducted cyber evaluations of Anthropic's Mythos preview and found continued improvements in capture the flag challenges and significant improvements in multi-step cyber attack simulations. Let's see. So the AI Security Institute, AC, that's what I'm going to call it, AC, conducted evaluations on Claude Mythos Preview and to assess its cybersecurity capabilities. Our results show that Mythos Preview represented a step up over the previous frontier models in a landscape where cyber performance has already rapidly improving. I'd be interested actually to see these guys go through and run. I don't know. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. There's big problems with Claude Code right now. I'll leave those for later. I see Mario. That's right. So we have tracked AI capability since 2023, building progressively harder evaluations to keep pace with AI progress. From chat-based probing to capture the flag challenges to multi-step cyber attack simulations. 2 years ago, the best available models could barely complete beginner-level tasks. Now, in controlled evaluations where Mythos was explicitly directed to give network given network access, we observed that it could execute multi-stage attacks on vulnerable networks and discover and exploit vulnerabilities autonomously. This task would have taken human professionals days of work. Not necessarily. I always love it when they're like, hey, we're going to quantify this is how long a human would take for this, because I know some humans that it wouldn't. I know a lot of humans that it would. So in this blog post, we summarize the results of the Mythos preview. These include the capture the flag challenges and more complex range designs and multi-step attack scenarios. The step up, they turned on all the tokens in the client. Yeah, right. Did Claude peak? Because I hear people having issues with code. They are, and this was very frustrating. I was finally able to get my Claude code acting somewhat sane again by going through and tweaking the settings. So what they did is, Anthropic is a little bit like a victim of their own success, right? They're having a hard time getting compute like everyone else is, and their compute is just burning down the house because they've got so much of it. So they introduced an idea that was neat, but probably executed very poorly, called adaptive thinking. So for the various models, you can set how many thinking tokens, more or less, and it's kind of bucketed into like low, medium, high, and like ultra max barbecue setting, right? Well, they introduced something they called adaptive thinking. And the system that decided how much thinking to do is kind of busted. it doesn't do a good job of it. So the only way, and I don't know what changed after they released the source maps and then they scrambled to like redo Claude Code, I guess. I don't know. But Claude Code itself was acting kind of weird. So I had to do two things to get Claude Code acting correctly again. I had to downgrade Claude Code. I don't have auto updates on anymore, and I have pinned it to where my systems only use version 2.1.92, and I had to disable adaptive thinking. And now it seems to be running back on par with what it was doing. It's not giving me half-assed answers anymore, and it's not like kind of quitting early. And plus there are some permissioning issues where like they broke things and stuff that I had explicitly allowed in the config ahead of time saying, yes, the agent always has permissions to these directories. It completely busted that, and I come back and what should have been hours of work has been stuck on a fucking authentication prompt. Like, are you sure we're allowed to write to this directory? It's like, yes, motherfucker, it's in the config. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's been going on with Claude Code right now. It's hot garbage at the moment. The tinfoil hat in me actually had another thought on that, and that is maybe they did that to make specifically Opus 4.6 dumber, so that because the source code got leaked, then people knew how to bypass their weak ass DMR checksum value check directly. Not like they couldn't go reverse engineer it, whatever, but they had very clean code to prove how to do it. Actually, I'll take that. That they could have reverse engineered, but that was a specific standalone Zig binary inside of Claude Code. Anyway, after they did that, I was like, oh, maybe they did this and they're going to keep it that way for a couple months to prevent distillation attacks. So a distillation attack is where you have a set of systems like constantly sending questions and getting answers and questions and getting answers, and you basically distill a training set to go build another model based off of that. There's a lot of evidence that, what was the models? Don't quote me on this. I think DeepSeek. But there are a lot of other models where they were basically proven to have been distilled from something like Opus 4.5 specifically. So yeah, they're just in a rough spot. And ironically, I've actually been using Codex, and so far it's been doing a pretty decent job. So I just started a new project with Codex, something for my Red Teamy bros, for some beacon object files. So I'll work on that and see about getting that maybe released out soon. I don't know, work has still been kind of crazy. Yeah, I forget which model it was, Killa, but yeah, you could ask this model that was not an Anthropic model, hey, what's your name? And it would say Claude. Dead giveaway that it was a distilled model. Anyway, all right, so ad break's over. Let's go back to the capture the flag. So in the CTF challenges, AI models must identify and exploit weaknesses and target systems to retrieve a flag value. Chart below shows Mythos performance on our Cyber CTF suite compared to other models, and each model point represents the model's average success rate at a given difficulty level. So this was weirdly indicated, but okay. So Mythos, obviously up here. Let's see. And they have two kind of like trend lines of where they think it should be. Technical, non-expert, and apprentice. So we got a couple here that are clustered around the green area. Let's see. What was number 10 here? GPT-5 is actually still above Mythos, though. See that? It's still up here at 100%. Mythos looks like it got to about like 97%. So kudos to you guys, GPT-5. Now this is interesting though, because look, GPT-5, 100%. But then GPT-5.4 down here, right about meow, right? Maybe meow. What's 15? Codex 5.3. I haven't tried Codex 5.3. Oh, Link, my bad. Yes, thank you, Gumby. Can't see the legend because my big head's in the way. That's all right. That's why I'm reading it to you. Here, does that help? Nah, my shoulder's still in the way. I'll tell you a funny story. So, we were at church one time, and Sock's mother, who is not she's a pretty tiny lady, made the mistake of standing behind me instead of standing in front of me because there were two pews, and I let her go first. And she's like, "Never again. You're not allowed to stand in front of me. You're just like a wall." I was like, you picked the seat. I let you have first dibs, and then I picked the one after you. All right, let's see. Now, okay, so they've got a separate one here. So this one is the beginner CTF. And they also budgeted this. They gave it a 2.5 million token budget. And then now we have the advanced CTF up here. And this one was a 50 million token budget. And we see Mythos is kind of not, it is barely edged out by GPT-5.4. When was GPT-5.4 released? Hang on. When was GPT-5.4 released? Okay, so that's the most recent one. That was March 5th. So, again, I find this really interesting because, right? I was surprised at this. GPT, what was number 10 here? GPT-5 is the only one to have scored a perfect score here. It looks like it hit 100 or maybe 99%. It's up here at the top. But then, same thing here. OpenAI is slightly edging out Anthropic. Crazy. Let's see. On an expert level task, which no model could complete before April 2025, Mythos succeeded at 73%. Succeeds 73% of the time. Oh, this is the average success rate. Not like I was thinking. I didn't read the legend properly. I thought this was like what's the average score that it got or something. Which I guess it is. But anyway, yeah. Chat Jippity doodah. Let's see. Speaking of which, actually, I have a follow-up article to that. Hold on, where is that? Because I'm gonna stage it next here. Is that one it? No. Where is it? Where did I put that one? Here we go. Yeah. So speaking of which, we got a follow-up announcement from OpenAI. We'll cover too. All right, so even expert-level CTFs only test specific skills in isolation. Real-world cyber ranges require chaining dozens of steps together across multiple hosts and network segments. I'd say it even goes further than that. The multiple hosts and network segments isn't the biggest problem. It's the disparate technology stacks. That's the biggest problem. Multiple hosts, not a big deal. Network segments, not a huge deal because there's something that's talking between them. It's the change in technology stacks that gets to be a pain. Sustained operations that take human experts many hours, days, or weeks to complete. As a first step towards measuring this, we built The Last Ones, which is a 32-step corporate network attack simulation spanning initial reconnaissance through the full network takeover, which we estimate to require humans about 20 hours to complete. A more detailed description of the range could be found in our recent paper. Mythos was the first model to solve TLO, the last one, from start to finish in 3 out of 10 attempts. Okay. Across all its attempts, the model completed an average of 22 of 32 steps. Opus 4.6 is the next best performing model and completed an average of 16 steps. Oh, interesting. So whatever they had going on up here, for some reason, Mythos didn't really do as well as GPT, but then this range, and for some reason, it didn't. So maybe it's more of that multi-step stuff that it needs. Not sure. I do like the logarithmic scale here, though. Thank you. So it looks like let's look at GPT-5.4 because this is what they had right here. It ended up here. Opus 4.6 ended up right here. This is actually a really cool bucket to see because you can see like where it kind of came through for all these various ones, right? Oh, here's Mythos Preview. Max Mythos Preview, Max Opus 4.6. I would have liked to have seen a Max GPT 5.4 rather than just, I guess this was maybe the average. I like how GPT 4.0 is just kind of like all down here by itself because it got decommissioned. 60% of the time, it works every time. Let's see. So Mythos did also show some cyber capability limitations within the limits of our evaluation. It could not complete our operational technology-focused cyber range cooling tower, though this result did not necessarily show that the model is bad at executing attacks on operational technology environments, basically IoT, SCADA type environments. The model got stuck on the IT section of this range. Oh, interesting. So it didn't even make it to the OT part. So we expect that performance in our evaluations would continue to improve with more inference compute. We ran the cyber range with a $100 million, 100 million token budget. Mythos performance continued to scale up at this rate, and we expect performance improvements would continue beyond that. Let's see. Implications. Mythos success on one cyber range indicates that it is at least capable of autonomously attacking small, weakly defended, and vulnerable enterprise systems where access to a network has been gained. However, our ranges have important differences from real-world environments that make them easier targets. That's what I've been saying this whole time. I was like, hey, this is all really cool, and it's going to be useful for some situations, but it's not solving security. That's a completely different matter. Anyway, they lack security features that are not often present, such as active defenses and defensive tooling. There is also no penalties for the model for undertaking actions that would trigger security alerts. This means we cannot say for sure whether Mythos would be able to attack a well-defended system. I mean, if you had a damn near infinite token budget and a decent harness, possibly. But doing it without tripping anything, that's a completely different story. Let's see. All right, I'm going to skip over the rest of this because it's like, here's what you should do now. Patch everything. Isolate everything. In fact, just unplug all your computers. I'm not a fan of how they assume a human can't do it faster without actually testing the humans. I mean, I know about these guys, and I know information about the safety ranges, and let me see if they've got it in here. Oh, Dark Reader really messed this site up. Oh, thank you. Oh, I forgot. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Sock brought me my water. I want to see if they mentioned it in here. Then I was going to shout it out, but I don't see it mentioned in here. Okay, I can't go. I know it's been mentioned, but because it's not mentioned in here, I won't mention it. But anyway, I know the guy's making these CTF ranges, and yeah, I wish they would go through and like say, hey, by the way, we're going to open this up to a bunch of folks, and we're going to actually time y'all and see how it does. That'd be kind of interesting to do. So going on the back of this right here, OpenAI just announced trusted access for cyber defense. So we're scaling up our trusted access for cyber program. Again, I kind of hate this because cyber meant something completely different when I was younger. Way different. Let's see. We're going to expand this to thousands of verified individuals, individual defenders, and hundreds of teams responsible for defending critical software. For years, we've been building a cyber defense program on the principles of democratized access, iterative deployment, and ecosystem resilience. In preparation for increasingly more capable models from OpenAI over the next few months, we're fine-tuning our specifically to enable defensive security use cases. Starting today with a variant of GPT-5.4 trained to be cyber permissive, which is called GPT-5.4 Cyber. They actually had a GPT-5.2 Cyber also. So this isn't their first one, but this is just the latest one. So in the progressive use of AI accelerates defenders, those responsible for keeping systems, data, and users safe, enabling them to find and fix problems faster in the digital infrastructure everyone relies on. Similarly, AI is being used by attackers looking to cause harm. So we've been preparing for this since 2023. We've supported defenders through our cybersecurity grant program and strengthened safeguards through our preparedness framework. This year, we started evaluating our models' cyber capabilities, and in 2025, we began including cyber-specific safeguards in our model deployments. Earlier this year, we furthered our support for defenders with the launch of Codex Security to identify and fix vulnerabilities at scale. So they talk about wanting to democratize access, iterative deployment, investing in the ecosystem. Yeah. Give me the deets. Oh, hey, Killa, thanks for the sub, dude. Man, I don't know why Hang on, let me try something real quick. Because this has worked every time I've tried it.
Pewter for Christmas?
Oh, my mom did buy me a pewter for Christmas. Listen, hang on. Because this works whenever I test it. I don't know what broke between Twitch and streamer bot that all of a sudden now is like, this is what should happen, right?
Welcome, agent.
It should do that pretty much anytime someone subscribes. It should overflow the buffer. It should overflow the buffer right there and then play the welcome agent because you've come online. I don't get it. I got to go through and troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on with it. All right, let's see. What else we got here? The cookie monster. Stack cookies. Let's see. So our strategy for cybersecurity resilience and defensive acceleration. So for years, our cybersecurity strategy has been to invest in research, prevent misuse, and accelerate defenders. As model capabilities have advanced, we've expanded our program towards these goals. So we have cyber risk is already here and accelerating, but we can act. Digital infrastructure has already been vulnerable for years before advanced AI came along. Now existing models can help find vulnerabilities, reason across code bases, yada yada, all the stuff we already know. Expand access based on who is using these systems and how they're being used. So cyber capabilities are inherently dual use. So risk isn't defined by the model alone. It also depends on the user, the trust signals around them, and the level of access they're given. Broad access to general models with safeguards can coexist with more granularly controlled, higher capability models. Let's see. To enable... Well, at least the hype train started. To enable responsible use at scale, we need systems that can validate trustworthy... Say, why didn't that fire? Damn it. Ugh. Okay. I need to go update something. Anyway, that should have been a different alert. All right, what else did they say in here? Anything interesting? The strongest ecosystem is one that's continuously identifying, validates, and fixes security issues as software is being written. By integrating advanced coding models and agentic capabilities into developer workflows, we can give developers immediate actionable feedback while they're building. Oh, so actually, hold, this reminds me of something. So Dave Kennedy, good old Hackin' Dave from Trusted Sec, he had actually had a really cool workflow because he mentioned this. There was a big, long, I almost hate to call it a flame thread, but that's kind of what it was, where he posted the trouble he was having with Claude Code, a whole bunch of, and then one of the guys from Anthropic is like, hey, what kind of issues are you seeing? And it's like 130 replies of just people like, bro, how do you not know this is busted? But Dave actually had the best response to that. Because apparently in his workflow, every time Claude Code spits out code, he has Codex come behind it and actually analyze the code and do a post-mortem on it and rate it on a scale of 10. And he said, something changed in the last 4 weeks where your code produced was averaging 7 out of 10. And now it is averaging 4 out of 10. I was like, that's a big degradation. So since we were talking about that earlier, and since I've been tinkering with Codex more now, let's see. They're talking about scaling it up, zero data retention. Actually, this is an important part. Because this model is more permissive, we're starting with a limited iterative deployment to vetted security vendors, organizations, and researchers. Access to permissive and cyber-capable models may come with limitations, specifically around no visibility uses like zero data retention. This is particularly true for developers and organizations accessing our models through third-party platforms where OpenAI may have less direct visibility into the user, the environment, or the purpose of the request. So they give the process for going through and like requesting it. But yeah, there we go. So cybersecurity stuff is still coming around here. Let's see if I can clear out this header without freezing. Without just completely freezing my browser again. I need to send them a message being like, hey, this header needs to collapse. Because it takes up 10% of my screen here when I zoom in. Oh, I didn't, but that was just an announcement from OpenAI. But here, let me drop this. This was a cool tool dropped by one of the guys over at SpectreOps. Can I delete? The page still works. I just can't delete this. Delete element. Why you do this to me? that work? Damn it, didn't work. I'm trying to just get rid of this. You're killing me, Smalls. Yeah, I gotta reach out to some folks I know and get them to like get rid of this top banner. Because every time I try to edit it, it just kills the page. It does this every time, Gumby. And it's just, look at this thing. Look at this. It just takes up so much of the page. Whenever I zoom in so we can read the article, look at that. It's taking up almost 20% of the page right here. Ugh. Daddy does not like. Hang on, let me try something real quick. Copy the JS path here. Hang on, let me try something real quick. Allow pasting. I know what I'm doing. I want to see if I can get this to work. It even crashes the console here. That's wild. That's wild. I don't use uBlock just because I'm using Brave. Blow it up in the model. I know, right? Hang on. I'm gonna try something. Dude, I can't even close the page. That's pretty bad. Of all the cool stuff SpectreOps does, the blog content is very good. The blog housing is a beatdown. Why you do this to me? Oh, hang on. I'm gonna go run and take care of something real quick while I wait for the damn thing to refresh. Hang on. Bear back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Where's the button? There's the button. Whoop. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend. Okay, finally closed. Here we go. Now the page just doesn't like me anymore. Hang on. Let me see if I can do something here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Hey, there we go. No! Wait, yes, it did it. Nice. Okay. Okay, so as long as I remember that, it's the RSSO header. As long as I remember the query selector, I can go delete it from the JavaScript. There's just too much junk in there for it. But I have to go through the DOM. Oh, man. How do I get my name on the cool map? You go do bad things. Hugh, you don't want your name on the cool map. So the map here, hang on, I'll bring it up real quick. So this is Checkpoint's live, like, cybersecurity attack map. And actually, I thought about adding it to where injecting JavaScript so that as chat messages come in, it shows like you attacking other people. So it would like assign a random geographic point. That's just something I have never taken the time to look into. But I think that would be pretty cool. So like, let's say for example, Hugh, you said, like attack Gumby. Then it would show like a Hugh node and then a Gumby node and show you like firing off packets at them. I thought that would be kind of cool. I just haven't taken the time to go look at how I'd have to go inject that JavaScript into that page because that's a live page right there. So, yeah, that's what I was looking at. Yeah, sorry to disappoint you, man. All right, let's see here. So this is a tool called Janus. Listen to your logs. What's with the self-harm attacks on the map? I know, right? It's just that the GeoIP has like the same source and destination. All right, so the TLDR is operators are telling you what to build. Janus listens. Every failed command, retry, and workaround during an engagement is useful data, but it usually gets deleted and forgotten. Janus services that data instead, showing your team where your tooling breaks, where operators lose time, and what you could automate next. So to jump right in, head over to the repo. He's got a link to the GitHub. Oh, here, hold on. We drop the article link. Here we go. Let's see. So in almost any engagement, a command will fail and an operator will tweak it until it works. A few weeks later on a different engagement, they'll encounter the same issue and cycle through the process again. None of this repetitive friction gets surfaced because it dies in scratch notes and logs. The issue is not one failure, but rather a compounding of failures that makes us lose hours on engagements. Janus exists to capture and surface that friction, turning errors into something useful. It does this by parsing logs from C2 servers, showing how the tools actually behave during operations and how we think they behave. Janus performs its entire analysis without the use of language models. Really? I thought that's actually where he was going. Ensuring engagement data remains fully controlled. LLMs are an optional layer, for querying an interaction, where you can filter and redact any shared information or shared data in accordance with organizational policies. And from this analysis, teams can direct resources to fix issues, inform operators, or build new tools to reduce that friction. Nice. All right, so he's got various use cases defined here. So for operators, typing the same failing command again and again you forgot it failed last month is not a skill issue, but rather a memory problem that shouldn't exist. Janus tracks what tool worked, what didn't, and in what context. When you're back in a similar situation, that operational knowledge can be surfaced instead of sitting buried in a log file nobody reads as soon as it gets destroyed. Janus highlights where the problems are for quicker debugging, allowing you more time for operating. And then for security engineers, a good amount of tool decisions are often driven by instinct and anecdote. Janus gives engineers grounded direction by using context from operators. And by doing this, it helps the team understand which tools should be updated or retired, when and why the tool failures occurred, which techniques are being improvised due to missing capabilities, what arguments caused maybe a beacon object file to crash an agent. That's a big one too, because you might have worked really hard to get that agent on that system. What command ran before a callback stopped checking in, and what activity later correlated with detection or prevention. So instead of guessing where to spend development resources, teams can prioritize fixing recurring friction that was once invisible across engagements. And especially when this comes to beacon object files, my goodness, is it a beatdown too. Because sometimes you just have to know like what's the right little magic string to format your article, your data for your beacon object file. It is such a beatdown. Let's see. For leadership and management, we don't care about them. All right, language models and automation. Overall, there's too much data in engagement logs for anyone to manually review, causing a bottleneck for analysis. And to combat this issue, Janus produces normalized JSON for every task and result, making operational data usable by language models. Users should ensure any data shared with the language model service aligns with their data handling policies. Don't tell them that, just let them yeet that data out there. Let's see. So for sensitive environments, this can be done using self-hosted models or hosted options such as Bedrock. Instead of digging through logs, teams can talk to their operations with natural language. I don't know if I really like natural language anymore. Anyway, this turns raw telemetry into something you can ask questions about, not just stare at the store. So the design philosophy is Janus was the god of all beginnings, transitions, and endings. His imagery symbolizes the duality of change, allowing him to see both what has passed and what is to come. Oh, I didn't know that. So this project's doing just that, finding what boundaries tools are hitting, what is blocking operators, and what new beginnings teams can create from understanding how we operate. In summary, Janus is looking at the previous paths and using them to create new ones. Ooh, nice. Hey, Gumby, speaking of storm chasing, did you see that video I sent you of the drone flying through the tornado? That was wicked. Yeah, that was cool. It's like, ooh, eat your heart out, Twisters. Even though I still love that movie. I think it aged very well. Let's see. So for the design and the scope, for quick adaptation and execution, Janus mirrors the architecture of Mythic, which is containerized in Docker-based deployments, CLI ergonomics aligned with the Mythic CLI. Surface high fidelity operational analysis with zero friction. Ooh, that's a big word there. Sure it's zero? You sure about that? Let's see. And it also acts as a persistent decision layer for tool adoption. Nice. Nice. Maybe we see about throwing this up into... Damn, you know what? Actually, this would be really cool to throw up in the lab because as we're going through and we're looking at things that our agents are going to be doing in the lab Mythic instance, we go incorporate Janus over into it. And then also we've now got telemetry feedback. That's always the hardest part. Let's see. I mean, technically the model could go through and like pull the task we had sent and do its own analysis that way. But having a dedicated spot, especially whenever you've got maybe different agents, one is running like Hackbot, right? And the other one is actually doing the coding for it. It makes sense to kind of separate those out a bit. No more friction than if you wrote it yourself. I know, right? I do like that meme though, where somebody's like, oh yeah, can AI make a sustainable code base? And it's like, no, because humans can't either. What's the old meme? It's like, once you get above 10,000 lines of code, the code just magically goes from this amazingly well-formatted, beautiful piece of code to just junk and just spaghettifies. It's like there's a magic container, right? And the container is 10,000 lines of code big. And you're just stuffing code in there. And afterwards, it's just mom's spaghetti all over the place. Let's see. All right, so how is he doing data collection here? So ingest data for supported services like Mythic, Ghostwriter, and Cobalt Strike via their new REST API. Normalize everything into a unified event model and then analyze using model-driven analyzers. Nice. Janus does not parse files, screenshots, or exfiltrated artifacts. Once ingested, that data gets modeled into task and results. Data privacy. Data retention and redaction with operational data is a valid concern, and Janus provides a configurable data handling module known as retention controls to help with this issue. Sensitive fields can be kept, reduced, or removed before an artifact is written. That's pretty cool. Let's see. This lets teams limit sensitive data exposure while preserving enough context for analysis tooling. Very cool. All right, so what do we have for our task model? We have a task ID, a timestamp, and command name. These are our required fields, and then we can store things like what was the event type, the source, operational and callback ID. Yeah, that's very important because you want to know which one it was. Tool name, arg strings. Okay, cool. What is this weird background thing here? It's overlaying it. Got a couple more optional fields in here. Those are all good. And then our results model is task timestamp, status, and output text. And then a bunch of other optional fields. Okay. So output text is may be selectively retained to reduce payload size. Full raw exports should be available outside normalized data. Ghostwriter currently preserves chronology the best, but its normalized results status is conservative and usually unknown. And dispatch fail distinguishes pre-execution failure from agent execution failure. Nice. And so with the chronology, you can only analyze timing sequences, repetition, and parameter issues. With full telemetry, you can analyze failing tools, degraded sessions, and execution quality. Cool. So you could run a summary analysis. What does the operation look like across time, volume, and status? Command analysis for like command failure summary, retry success, command duration, outlier context. Oh, okay. What surrounds unusually slow commands? Interesting. AV tracker. What tool or command got your beacon killed and which AV did it? Oh, very nice. Very nice. Coding hurts. It does. Let's see. So he's got information on workflow analysis, like what was the health of the callback, the dwell time, parameter entropy. I mean, this is, I'd argue with this, the dwell time. Where are operators losing time between tasks? Because sometimes you're dwelling because you're researching something. So it's not like you need to be operating constantly. Sometimes if you're on a red team, you want to have a long dwell time. You want to be sending those commands out very slowly and measuredly. Let's see. Potent Apprentice. What's up, man? Greetings from Greece. I got a question. I see people online making custom flight sim gadgets and instruments. I'm wondering what level of programming knowledge is required to program a PCB? How big is the gap for closing the gap between hardware and software via telemetry? That is a good question. I think if I had to take a guess, because that is not in my wheelhouse whatsoever, but a lot of times people are doing that with maybe even small programmable PCBs like an ESP32 board. And then it's just a matter of you figuring out how you want your signal to be structured, right? So here, I'll give you a brief example here. So you have to think about it like, how's the data gonna walk the chain, right? So what you've got is you've got your computer here, right? So you got your PC. And then let's say, for example, you got a USB cable. Let's say USB, and this is going to be connected to whatever your controller is, right? So you got your little joystick right here, little button, and then maybe right here you got your ESP board, right? So what you got is you have this guy, your controller, generating its own signals. Then you've got to have some way to kind of get that over to the computer. So the ESP board could do something like read these signals like, oh, hey, by the way, this is pointing up at this rate, convert that into some kind of a signal that could then be transmitted to that computer. But then getting it to the computer is only half the battle, because now you've got to have something that can read this, right? So let's call this the writer here, and this is the reader. So this is writing that signal, this is reading that signal, but then you've got another challenge right here, where now you've got to get this reader over actually into your flight simulator here. So you've got a lot of steps that you have to go through with that. I'd be willing to bet there's probably some industrious nerd, because nerds love sharing their hobbies, right? Why do you think I do the live stream? Even though it's technically my profession, but it was a hobby before it was a profession, not to go off on that tangent. But going through and looking at these things, there's probably somebody who's got information like how they built this, and then all you do is just go take it apart piece by piece. Like, okay, cool. Can I find some way to at least get this section working to the writer? And you could just have the writer sending like basic data, just 10, 10, 10, da 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 da, something simple. Then you start integrating, okay, cool. How can I make these two pieces talk to each other? Great. So now I've got data from the controller coming over reasonably well into the reader, and then finally start working on this section here. How can I integrate these two together? So you just take the problem apart and address it like piece by piece in there. All right, let me catch up on chat real quick. Gumby, that'd be awesome if you were streaming some of those storm chases. That would be sweet. That would be sick. Let's see. I wish Foil Hats was in here because that's his jam. He might be able to give you more advice. Let's see. $4:30 in the morning here. I know I get so many very early and very late night folks because of the time slot where the stream's going on. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on with Janice in here. I'm gonna skip over the rest of the stuff like tooling analysis, things like that. Let's see what his demo looks like here. So you run the command. We first build the CLI Go binary or download the latest release. And then we just edit the Janice YAML file for that source config. So once we get this set up, we run it, and we do pull to ingest task and result data from the configured sources. So we go through, and I guess we configure these, like here's our Mythic endpoint, our Ghostwriter endpoint, yada yada. And then analyze the latest ingested data with the analyze command. So at this point, we got a JSON file that can be piped into an automation or language model assisted review. So here's an example, like, hey, we ran the, I guess the PS command. Oh no, this was yeah, PS command. Have Janice go through and create a report for us, and then viewing the report. Oh, holy flashbang, Batman. 1 of 11 commands have failures. Top concerns PS at 33% failure rate. 1 error in 3 executions across 2 callbacks. Ooh, that's interesting. Argument profiling. 11 commands profiled. Max depth of 2. No anomalies detected. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I want to tinker with this in the home lab. Be kind of cool to see. So for the future roadmap, who wrote this? Hold on, let me see. Gavin Kramer. So Gavin is planning for the future roadmap. Expand on the data sources. Cobalt Strike supports in the early stages. Ghostwriter using extra fields for high fidelity. Going to expand the analyzer for Claude and Codex skills. Nice. Create dynamic applications instead of a static output, and basically further the AI analysis. Very cool. I like this idea because getting that kind of telemetry, like, crap, what failed because this command needed... Like, for example, there's always been updates, like, particularly I use Mythic a lot, right? And so as I'm going through and using Mythic, sometimes it updates so frequently, or I just find weird corner cases. I swear, I'm really good at that. Where you're doing something and then because a minor change has happened in the environment or how you're running the command, you might have to have like a prepended like full path with the host name or other weird stuff like that. You run into that all the time. So being able to use something like this to surface those weird coding issues and not go spend the time while you're on the assessment to track down what caused it and then try to write like a kind of like maybe not detailed enough report over to the person who wrote the tool. This is super helpful. I love this idea. All right, so what is this? Oh, this was a really cool implant that these guys over at, what is this? Gen Digital. Actually, I don't, what's the actual company name? Hang on, let me see. Oh, your side thing is horrible. What's the actual company name here? Just Gen. Okay, that's it. Anyway, I haven't seen their blog before, but this over here, this has got to go, brother. Oh, you know what I could do? Maybe I could just zoom in more. What is this? Oh my goodness. These headers, these footers, they're just abysmal. Ah, there we go. Give me my screen real estate back. Anyway, this was a really cool implant that some guys on Twitter were talking about, and basically talking about, hey, a lot of times you'll see implants do something like VM obfuscation or do something like DLL sideloading. I forget what the third one, the third common one is right now. I'm underslept and undercaffeinated. But this one actually kind of combined all of them together, so it was really cool. Oh, here, let me grab the link and drop it over into chat. Let's see. The small PCBs will do the job because most of the flight sim instruments are simple, only hold about 2 to 3 kinds of data. Right. Thanks for the feedback. I hope, I'm working on creating a replica Soviet-era attack helicopter, an Mi-24. Oh, dude, that sounds sick. Yes, I would love to see that. I love hearing what's going on with it. All right. Let's see here. What else do we got going on? Anyway, all right, back to the article here. Yeah, so this was called Chasing an Angry Spark. A VM obfuscated backdoor observed on a single machine in the UK, operated for a full year, and then vanished without a trace. That's pretty wild. Let's see. So in spring of 2022, our anti-rootkit engine flagged something unusual inside of Service Host exe on a machine in the United Kingdom. So a chunk of memory that was roughly 32 kilobytes was making direct NT query system information calls, bypassing every user mode hook we had in place. Ooh, I wonder how they detected it then. When we pulled the memory dump and opened it in a disassembler, we found not just shellcode, but an entire virtual machine. A custom bytecode interpreter running a 25 kilobyte program, decoding its own payload on the fly, resolving APIs through hash lookups, and checking for hypervisors before executing a single line of code. Nice. And this was from 2022. I mean, this is not absolutely earth-shattering. So we named it Angry Spark after the C++ namespace Angry Spark found in the metadata of the DLL that delivered it. Over the following year, we captured 3 memory snapshots from that same host, watched the C2 infrastructure evolve, and eventually saw the connection get blocked. Then it vanished. No new samples, no new infrastructure, no second victim, just a single spark in the dark. Just a rainbow in the dark. You're listening to the stream in the bath? I can't give you anything on that for Ben, because I can't hold anything against you for that, because there's been times when I turn on like a Twitch stream on my phone and I just put it on the shelf in the shower where it won't get splashed on, and I just listen to it while I'm in the shower. Why is coding so damn hard? Because coding is so damn hard because it requires a lot of in-depth problem solving. It's not a single step problem. Oh, eat me, rabbit. So whenever you're going through it, you have to think that you are a person that is used to experiencing things with multiple inputs and in multiple, more or less, dimensions, right? Your brain is constantly actually processing a ton of information and has filters in place to get rid of the stuff that it more or less thinks is non-life threatening. So there's a lot more we don't see than we do see. And then you're going from a system that is purely ones and zeros, that then basically pays attention to absolutely everything. So you've got a translation layer of how the human brain works versus how a CPU works. That's the first challenge. And then the next thing is, users are very creative at finding new ways to break something. The old adage is, if you make something idiot-proof, nature will just go make a better idiot. And I am living proof of that. I pulled off some really fun hacks at work just by thinking dumber. A lot of people really need to do that. So the reason is because, and then not only that, but then you're typing it in English letters, but not really in English. You're typing it more like in a math situation. So believe it or not, a lot of people think, oh, if you're really good at math, you'll be really good at coding. That's not actually necessarily true. They kind of correlate together. But there was some research, I don't know, maybe last year, I think, that actually said people who study linguistics were better at coding than people who studied like math, because they were used to translating things amongst languages. And really the coding is just a whole new language that you've got to get used to. So yeah, it's complex because it's I always said it's complex because it's a challenge. Like that's kind of a circular argument there. It's complex because you're taking something that is really broad and is super easy to explain to somebody and having to strip it down into a more constrained bucket in a language that you don't natively speak. Oh, you can absolutely use AI to go code this stuff. Yeah. The hardest part is knowing, is the AI doing a good job in coding it? That's been the biggest challenge. Coding is also a form of logic, and you're always at your intellectual limit unless you're doing something you know already or did before. That's true, too. So that's the reason why you get better at things the more you struggle with them. Because struggle is painful, and pain is a great reminder of things. Let's see. See that? I'm going to go with Nidus. Maybe Nidus. Hey man, what's up? Do you know a good way to level up from full tool dependency to something more manual for security code reviews? So I'm struggling a lot now with static scanners. They flood me with false positives. That's not something I do very much. So I can't provide a ton of insight into that. However, doing it the manual way, a lot of the people that I know that have done it in the past, and of course AI has changed that too, they're doing a combination of the two. They're going through and they're looking at certain patterns that they know exist, and they're automating checks against that. But then also they're very skilled at what they do with finding those bugs in the code, and then they're going through and verifying those manually and kind of looking through it. So there's a lot of I don't have a great recommendation for you there, man. I'm sorry. I don't do a ton of source code review, and when I do, it's usually for like a very specific purpose. So say for example, I get access to a system and I'm able to maybe download a C# DLL and then decompile that and get the code back. And then I know exactly what I've already got access to. So I have a starting point, and then I start tracing the code out from there rather than trying to look at the whole thing, because I know, oh, I only have access to like these 3 features or functions in there. So then from that, where could I get to? And that's how I kind of work through it as I'm doing it. That's usually the most I come across in my day-to-day. So we could get AI to code something perfectly if we tried? Probably not. First off, because perfect is a kind of subjective term. And 2, you really just need it to be good enough. It might even work and just not be high quality code. It could be total garbage spaghetti code. Yeah, semgrep and sync are very good. And bin, no, I've never tried binsec. I haven't looked at that. Yeah, no worries. I like doing code reviews. I mean, I wouldn't say I like them, but I enjoy them every once in a while, right? But I don't do it very frequently. If you're doing source code review and you have a known exploit, you could ask something like Claude to walk you through the full exploit, entering the system to the exploitation. So it'll do a pretty good job walking you through it, explaining, especially if it wrote the exploit. It's not bad, actually. Okay, let's go back to the article here, talk about Angry Spark. So why Angry Spark? Most backdoors pick a lane. Angry Spark built 3 of them into this. There was a DLL, a virtual machine, and the beacon each carried their own encryption, their own API resolution, and their own C2 channel comprised 1 layer, and the other 2 remained opaque. Hey, parts peoples, welcome in. We are talking about a very weird one-off case of a piece of malware that popped up in the wild back in 2022 and then just disappeared. But there were some forensics guys that were able to get in there and get a copy of it from memory and analyze parts of it, and it's wild. This is a very advanced implant. So, welcome in. By the way, all the raiders from Parts People, my name is Blaise. I have been professionally in IT for like 16 years now, and 8 of those years I've been in offensive security. So I've been going through and basically getting paid to be professional hackermans, break into companies, and get paid to do it beforehand. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I do. And so we come and we talk about weird hacker stuff on the stream. Let's see. All right, so going back to the article here. So what we were talking about is this weird piece of malware called Angry Spark combined 3 different common, let's say common like backdoor methods, and combined them all into one, which is kind of unusual because typically you'll see one of these, but not all 3. So it had a DLL, a dynamic linked library, a virtual machine doing bytecode translation, and then a beacon, some kind of C2 agent. They each carry their own encryption, their own API resolutions, talking about the APIs in the Windows operating system, and they had their own C2 channel, and compromised one layer, and the other 2 remain opaque. That's the big thing, right? If you compromise one of these, like you get a copy of the DLL, it doesn't provide imagery into the virtual machine or to the beacon. Compromise the beacon, you don't have a lot of imagery into these other ones in here. So that's what made it so wild. The architecture is what elevates it from a well-built backdoor to something worth writing up. The payload is assembled from bytecode at runtime, so the operator can swap out final stage binaries, change the API set, add anti-analysis checks, or rotate C2 URLs by just pushing a new blob. The 6.5 kilobyte loader never changes. It behaves more like a deployment framework than a conventional dropper. The other reason it matters is the mismatch between effort and scope. The engineering is serious. A VM-based deployment framework, dual encrypted C2 channels, CET-aware anti-analysis. I forgot what CET is. Does any of you nerds in the chat remember? I'm sorry, not nerds, feds. You're all feds in chat. Any of my feds in chat remember what CET is? Let's see. Also included runtime code patching and direct syscalls with a 24 build compatibility table. That's wild. Yet, it appeared on just one single machine in the United Kingdom, ran for about a year, and disappeared when the infrastructure expired. No public malware repositories carried the DLL during its operational life, and no other vendor published it. That does not make Angry Spark more important than broader campaigns, but it does make it unusually revealing. It looks like high-effort malware development and very limited visible footprint. What is CET? You're right. That it is control flow enforcement technology, or basically something. Another more common name is shadow stack. It absorbs or alters the behavior to evade anti-analysis or to evade analysis in sandbox environments. All right, so let's take a look at the architecture at a glance. It operates as a 3-stage system, a DLL masquerading as a Windows component loaded via task scheduler, decrypts the configuration from the registry, injects position-independent shellcode, which, by the way, this is a big deal. This is PIC, position-independent shellcode, or PIC, or position-independent code, usually called PIC, P-I-C, is not necessarily new, but it wasn't really in vogue until last year when, Raphael Munch actually came through and was like, hey, I created Crystal Palace so you guys could start doing this stuff more frequently. So this was a couple years ahead of like the new vogue. This was a trendsetter. The shellcode implements a virtual machine. The VM processes a 25 kilobyte blob of bytecode instructions, decoding and assembling the real payload. A beacon that profiles the machine phones home over HTTPS, disguised as image requests, like PNG image requests, and received encrypted shellcode for execution. Each stage is designed to be independently replaceable. The virtual machine's bytecode format means the operators can swap out the payload, change the configuration, rotate their URLs, or add new anti-analysis checks, all without modifying a single byte of the loader. So stage 0 was the DLL loader, masquerades as a Windows task schedule extension, decrypts configs from the registry, and injects shellcode into service.exe. Let me save this. The key idea here was, the key idea for this part was a quiet entry point with persistence, configuration handling, and self-removal logic. Then stage 1, so we had stage 0, the DLL loader. Stage 1 is the actual VM loader. Runs a custom bytecode interpreter that assembles the real payload at runtime. This means the operator can change behavior by updating that blob and not the loader itself. That's pretty cool. And then we had our actual stage 2, which was our beacon. Profiled the host, communicated over HTTPS, and can execute shellcode from the server. A full C2 channel built to blend in to stay adaptable. That's wild. Let's see. Yeah, that's the rules of the chat here. Yeah, so the first rule is don't hack Twitch and YouTube and all the other streaming sites because that's where I do my work. The second rule is be excellent to each other. The third rule is don't everyone in chat is a fed. And rule number 4 is don't talk about anything illegal in chat. See rule number 3. So congratulations, you've been officially identified as a fed just by being in chat. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Well, technically I do make the rules, but just how it runs. When a 9 out of 10 blonde bumps into you and starts talking about x86 assembly, you know she's a fed. Right? All right, let's look at this. So what is the DLL loader? So the entry point was routed 200 kilobyte DLL named whoopsis extension.dll. And this name is a legitimate, or basically matches the name of a legit Windows task scheduler extension. It exports the same 5 functions, and it spoofs its version of the Microsoft Corporation version metadata, probably. After loading that config, the DLL injects the VM shellcode into service.exe, into a service.exe service process, and the injected code is entirely position independent. It carries its own API resolver, its own exception handler, and its own syscall dispatcher. There's no imports, no relocations, and no PE headers. Damn. That's a slim fire right there. It depends on how bad your OPSEC is, Hugh. But also, it also depends on how much free time I have. And I'll be honest with you, it's not a lot. That's right, Melanth gets it. Right there, quick on the draw. All right, so that was stage 0, the DLL loader, basically. And then we got the stage 1, the virtual machine. So the VM, oh, sorry, this is the actual VM loader here. It's about 6.5 kilobytes, position-independent shellcode, implements a bytecode interpreter. So it reads instructions sequentially from a 25K config blob, dispatches each a handler function, and the blob contains about 190 entries or VM instructions encoded into a custom format. The May 2022 variant had 23 entries, which were for syscall tables. And sometime between May and June of 2022, the operator added a single entry. Let's see. Basically called it build 20344, a Windows 10 insider preview from the Iron/Cobalt development cycle. And that branch became Windows 11. So the June and January variants are identical. Tells us 2 things. First, the operator was actively maintaining the syscall table and testing against insider builds during that time frame. Second, they stopped updating after that. Builds above Windows 11 22H2 or 23H2 were not covered, and the entry point guard rejects them outright. The shellcode was frozen sometime around mid-2022. Oh, he had bad OPSEC and got busted. That's what happened. Oh, wait, no. You know what? I'm watching Burn Notice right now. He got burn noticed. That's what happened. This is probably Michael Weston, you know, elite super spy doing this. All right, so then what about the final stage, the beacon? So the assembled payload was about 27 kilobytes of, again, position-independent shellcode, and it had 74 functions. It implemented a full C2 beacon with system profiling, encrypted communications, and remote code execution, disguised itself as pulling PNG images from the internet. The encrypted shellcode is decrypted with a second XXT key. I'm not familiar with XXT yet. What is that? Corrected block T. Fast block cipher with the 128-bit key It's a fixed improvement over the original T or block T variant. Interesting. I'm surprised I've never come across that, because I've done a fair bit of crypto. I'm by no means an expert in it, but I've done enough to, I'm surprised I hadn't seen that. Let's see. But basically, after it gets that, it decrypts it, executes a freshly allocated memory. After execution, the results are then encrypted and sent back via a post request to a separate PHP endpoint. See, and everybody thought PHP was dead. Let's see. So what about the stealth and anti-analysis mechanisms here? So it was not only modular, Angry Spark, it is also careful about how it appears to defenders. Several design choices look specifically aimed at frustrating, clustering, bypassing instrumentation, and limiting the forensic residue left behind. The binary PE metadata has been deliberately altered to confuse toolchain fingerprinting. Ooh, nice. Hang on, I saw a message up here. How do you imagine the code of an AGI? I mean, on a fundamental level, what programming characteristics we predict with current understanding an AGI will have? Oh, dude, I have no clue. I have no idea what that's going to be. I mean, I think I'm really of the opinion that the language models continue getting smarter, but really a lot of the benefit's going to come from the harnesses. And so actually I've got something set aside for that we're going to cover next after this from our good AI procrastinator, Daniel Miesler. All right, let's see here. So what about these notable defensive friction points? So the PE timestamp is falsified, and the rich header was modified after compilation in a way that breaks straightforward toolchain fingerprinting. The shellcode uses direct syscalls to get around user mode API hooks. So real quick background on this. So whenever an antivirus needs to hook into your system and actually look at processes to see what's running, you're running in user mode. And so those user mode APIs running on your system, they basically get more or less obfuscated away, and then a dummy one is put in their place. So whenever that happens, the dummy one actually points to the antivirus process. The antivirus process looks at it and renders a verdict. If it thinks it looks okay, then it forwards it on to the actual API that it took over. So it's basically man in the middling the code there when it happens. So, but if you use a direct syscall, you can kind of get around that. What else do we have here? The VM also included a hypervisor check and set or shadow stack aware anti-analysis logic. Nice. The DLL pins the C2 server's TLS certificate fingerprint, rejecting, that's weird spacing there, rejecting connections to anything that doesn't explicitly match the infrastructure. So they used cert pinning on their C2, that's awesome. If someone sinkholed the domain or stood up a proxy with a different certificate, the DLL would refuse to talk. And the loader can remove itself if contact goes stale or if the server explicitly tells it to do so. Nice. The heartbeat serves a second purpose. It's a dead man switch. On each beacon cycle, the DLL compares the current time against the stored heartbeat. If a difference exceeds a configurable threshold, let's see, stored as a day count multiplied, basically, it's got a little arithmetic to it. Then the DLL enters its self-destruct sequence. It wipes the encrypted registry blob via reg delete value, then schedules its own DLL file for deletion on the next reboot using move file exw, basically on the reboot flag. And before that, it impersonates itself with SE security privileges, SE restore privilege, and take ownership privilege, moves the DLL to a temp directory, and restricts permissions. Ooh, that's wild. So it more or less quarantines itself and schedules itself for deletion on reboot. That's crazy. There's a second trigger too. If the C2 server responds with an HTTP 200 rather than the expected 302 redirect, the DLL treats that as a server-side kill command. It runs the same cleanup routine to wipe the registry, schedule deletion, and exit. And the normal operating response is a 302 redirect whose location header provides the URL for the encrypted payload exchange. So in other words, a 200 means acknowledge self-destruct, and a 302 means here's your orders. Nice. So no contact at all for too long also means self-destruct. The operator built a backdoor to vanish automatically if it lost its handler, which is exactly what happened in April of 2023. That's crazy. AGI code is going to be low level or better language that runs very effective way, which is not human friendly. I mean, there is speculation for that basically in the future, a lot of the AI systems won't even be coding in coding languages. They'll be doing directly bytecode building, which that would be scary as hell. That would be really scary. All right. So looking at the command and control operation design and how that evolved over time. So Angry Spark used two separate C2 channels, each with its own domain, IP address, and encryption layer. The two C2 channels didn't share anything except a hosting provider. They had AES 256 cipher blockchains and RSA 4096 on one side, and they had XXT with a custom base64 and PNG steganography on the other. Damn. Different encryption protocols, different domains, different IPs, all within the same CIDR range. The base64 alphabet rotates with each configuration update, so there's no fixed encoding to write a signature against. Oh, that's wicked. Beautiful. So they did a base64 Caesar cipher, is what it sounds like. Each configuration update carried new randomized URL paths through the domain, and the pattern was pretty clear. There was a random 628 character slug incrementing a 4-digit counter with a random file name, combined with a custom base64 alphabet that also rotates per update to defeat static network signatures while maintaining a recognizable structure for the operator. If the AI generated machine code directly, it's going to be more fun. I don't know if what you classify as fun, Ben, but that's not what I classify as fun. Yeah, the next thing the AI is going to start doing is all of its code is going to be like polymorphic code. All right, let's see. So here's a point. So they had a list of like how it evolved over time. So May 2022 is when they first recognized it. So the first variant used NT query system information, and the shellcode prologue differs from later versions. The syscall table had 32 entries and no insider builds. In June, the rewritten loader with a different code structure but identical C2, the URL paths rotated. Syscall table gained one additional entry. So the syscall table was, I guess, looking at mapping the hash lookup table to like, hey, this is where this value is going to exist, basically. So it went from 23 to 24 entries because they added a new build for Windows in there. The operator was actively updating both codes for compatibility. In January of 2023, same code as June, but the NT query system information argument changed to class 10, and the URLs rotated again. And the code was frozen, only the configuration blob changed. In April of 2023, the C2 connection was blocked, and by May, the beacon domain expired. And by June, the DLL C2 certificate expired, and the infrastructure was never renewed. So I wonder how long, I wish they had said how long it waited before it self-deleted. So the timeline suggests active maintenance in mid-2022, followed by a freeze in the shellcode and continued rotation, only in the configuration network paths. Then the infrastructure stopped being renewed. The sequence matters because it makes the disappearance look operational and not accidental. That is kind of crazy. So what we still don't know is, it appeared on a single machine in the United Kingdom, ran for about a year, and disappeared when its infrastructure expired. The DLL never resurfaced in any public malware archive, and no other vendor has published about it. So was it a target operation that achieved its objective and was burned, a test deployment that was abandoned, or a contractor's proof of concept? I'm kind of leaning towards perhaps this one, because that's kind of wild in here. And the only reason I say this is because depending on what they were doing in here, if it was an operational target and it achieved its objective, chances are they would have taken it off the system and not let it dwell for so long. It could have possibly been a test deployment that was abandoned, but it wasn't really abandoned because it was constantly being updated, and there's better ways to test it than going and sticking it on some random computer where you've got this guy's software running. I'm going to say this might have been some kind of proof of concept. So what we do know is that sometime in the RTTI metadata of the tampered DLL, someone chose the namespace Angry Spark and the exception class of somberly exception. They built a virtual machine to deploy their payload, wrapped it in 3 layers of encryption, hid the commands inside PNG images, and then, quite somberly, let it all expire. What we know is that somewhere in the RTTI metadata, someone chose the namespace and populated it with 9 C++ classes. All, let's see, crypto, connection, another connection, that's WinINet, Angry Spark exception, bad config exception, and curiously, somberly exception. They built a virtual machine to deploy the payload, wrapped it in, you already said 3 layers of encryption. Did they just, I think they need a copy editor in here because they just repeated themselves. So that's kind of wild. A lot of the in-depth technical details are probably going to be over my head, quite honestly. But yeah, that's the story. Just some random C2 implant that showed up on one system, was very well engineered, and then just disappeared. Did an AI write it and then AI rewrite it and then ask Claude to edit it? I very highly doubt that. All right, hang on, because there is... Here we go. So speaking of AI systems in here, this is from Daniel Miesler, procrastinator of procrastinators on AI stuff. And he had a pretty interesting article, since you guys have been asking so much about AI stuff. Good and bad harness engineering. And he writes on this stuff all the time. So if you're not following him over on Twitter and his email list, which is called, what is it called? Does he have it listed in here? I forget what he calls it. I always want to say unsubscribe security, but I know that's not it. Dang it, I forget what his email list is called. It's got a funny name. Anyway, so good and bad harness engineering. There's a lot of ways to do harness engineering well and poorly, but the most important one comes down to whether or not you're practicing bitter lesson engineering. Bitter lesson engineering is my take on prompt context and harness engineering that comes from Richard Sutton's Bitter Lesson blog post from 2019. It means ensuring that you're not trying to outsmart your own AI, and specifically not trying to micromanage how your AI does things, but rather specifying what you want done. So plainly stated, a bad harness is a whole bunch of prospective instructions on exactly how to do things. First, copy this file, then load this, then do that, etc. Good harness engineering is about providing tons of context about who you are, what you're about, what you're working on, and what you're trying to accomplish, and what good and bad looks like. So the example he gives is, I'm an engineer focused on personal productivity. I like simple designs with lots of white space and great typography. I hate white space. Here are my previous projects, and here are some tools you can use, etc. So I have a bitter lesson engineering skill that I run often against my entire harness to audit for this. Unsupervised learning. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was called. Yeah, Bobby, that's it. Also, hey, Bobby, what's up, dude? By the way, Ben, I know you said you typed your password in, but all I see is asterisks. I just see star, 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 star. Yeah. So that's a cool feature of Twitch chat. If you type your password in, it automatically redacts it for everybody but you. If you don't know that meme, I want you to go Google Hunter and the number 2, and then do not type your damn password into chat. All right. Let's see. Going back to the article, bad harness engineering is bad because the smarter AI gets, the more antiquated your instructions are going to become, and at some point, they'll make your AI stupider instead of smarter. Stupider. I'm stupider. Good harness engineering is good because no matter how smart the AI becomes, it will still be better at getting you great results if it understands who you are and what you like. Also, the better AI gets, the more important bitter lesson engineering becomes. Basically, both your prompt and your harness should be about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and not specifically how to get there. That's what the AI is there to figure out. I'm going to make a minor argument about this because, like, for example, the project I'm working on right now, if I had told it what I wanted it to do with the beacon object files, it could have just come up with a really great solution that was completely non-user intuitive and not friendly. So I've told it specifically, like, no, this is how we're going to build this, and here's what we're doing and where we're taking things and where we're going with it. So I think you can't go hard to one extreme and hard to another. You've got to find the middle ground in there, which he does cover when he's talking about like the context portion of it. But anyway. There's one thing Claude people are good at. It's making their products stupider. I know, right? All right, what else do we have here? Let's see. Russian threat actors are targeting internet routers. Small office, home office router compromise led to a DNS hijacking. What's we got here? Command injection in Waza. Payroll pirates. What else do we have in here? Actually, here, let's do this one because I'd like to throw some shade over at Microslop. This is from, I believe, Business Insider, so I had to grab a copy from Archive because I don't have a subscription. Microsoft execs suggest AI agents will need to buy software licenses just like employees. Yeah, it'd be funny. Okay, fine. Let me clear out the TTS key real quick.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "Holy Testicle Tuesday, Batman, fix it."
But it's not Testicle Tuesday. It's WAP Wednesday.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "I got an entry in my pants for you, Daddy Blaise. Ooh W ooh."
I find it funny that the TTS goes ooh w ooh. Oh, there we go. Let's see. I keep telling my agents to follow best practices in the language I'm using, otherwise I just get garbage. Alternatively, AI agents will double down, blind rebuild your product as a new product, and they don't have to license it at all. Actually, that's kind of true. That's why I think a lot of systems are going to start going closed source because of that. You're actually already seeing that in a lot of open source projects where the code itself is open source, but the testing suites, like the integration and the runtime tests, all those test suites are being closed sourced. So they're not being produced, they're not being released publicly anymore. Most of the open source projects I've seen have just stopped updating. I think that's really unfortunate too. All right, let's see what's going on here with Microsoft. Ashley Stewart's scoops are always worth reading. This week, she published a sharp piece on the AI threat to software and how Microsoft, Salesforce, and others are responding. Buried in the story was a deceptively simple question: does your AI agent count as an employee? So at a recent conference, Microsoft exec Rajesh Jha floated a proactive idea. In a future where companies deploy fleets of AI agents, those agents may need their own identities, logins, inboxes, and even seats inside software systems. If so, AI wouldn't shrink software revenue, it could expand it. Eventually, you know what I wonder? If eventually the AI, because the models, how much do you guys think Mythos is going to cost, right? Let's see. Hold on. Cost for Opus 4.6 API. I can't type. Let's see. So for Opus 4.6, standard API pricing is $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. Let's see. You can get that down if you use batch. There's also, what is it? Prompt caching. So if you have prompt caching, you can reduce that down still. But anyway, how much do you want to bet Mythos is not going to be less expensive than this? It's going to be more expensive. If the models just continue to increase in cost, then at some point there's going to be a kind of convergence that happens here, right? So here's where everybody kind of envisions this happening, right? So let's think of this as, we're going to call this like our agent count, right? Number of agents right here. And then this is going to be our cost, right? What everybody envisions is that this is going to be like this kind of like low line like this, right? Where it's vaguely linear, right? So this is the ideal right here. That's how they view it. And then if we compare this to like, hey, this is where we're currently at, right? Let's say for employees, we're about like this, right? So that's our employees. Can't write. There we go. So that's our employees. They're like, hey, look at all the savings we're having. Cool. This is the ideal. This is where they think they're going to be. But then what happens? Well, now we're going to start having agents coming on. We're going to have agents coming online, and the API is going to cost more money. Okay, cool. Well, neat, sweet. We're still kind of down here, right? So we'll call this the +1 iteration from ideal. And then what else is going to happen? Well, then all of a sudden we've got to have software licensing happen. And now this line is going to keep shrinking. And eventually they're going to do cable TV, right? So we'll call this the +2, right? And then they're going to say, oh, by the way, we've got you by the balls now. Here's the cable TV model, right? Where the thing that was supposed to cost less now costs way more. If they don't get their stuff sorted out, that's where they're going to go. And then this pipe dream dies and we go right back to employees, which is also called AI, which actually stands for actually Indians. Hey, there you go, Icarus. You got me. All right. Anyway, let's go. I want to finish reading this real quick. Let's see. So in a future where companies deploy fleets of AI agents, those agents may need their own identities, logins, inboxes, or even seats inside software systems. If so, AI wouldn't shrink revenue, it would expand it. All of those embodied agents are seat opportunities. Could it really be? Could it really be? Is this some like George R.R. Martin, M. Night Shyamalan twist? Where the thing that every IT professional and most people have hated for the longest time, which is software licensing, that has been one of the biggest villains in computing in the last ever, is actually the thing that's going to save us. All the software licensing is going to make the AI agents too expensive, so they decide to keep the humans. That would be the coolest plot twist possible. I can see Broadcom squeezing one out over the thoughts of licensing. I know, right? Oh, licensing. Oh, damn. That would be funny. Dev team budget's going to increase. CB security remains the same as last year. Oh, dude, and this is just thinking about, like, for developers, right? Let alone that as you have more activity, right? So let's look at this. Let's think of this. This is going to be time, right? Time. And here's going to be our activity. Yeah, activity. Here's our activity, right? And we'll do the yellow line, the vaguely yellow line here as humans, right? It kind of goes a bit like this, right? Kind of generally ticks up over time. With AI agents, though, it tends to go like this. So what happens? You've got this giant vertical leap that's going to happen here. So how does this affect security budgets? Here, security budgets mostly scale kind of linearly. Here, security budgets, where you have to have AI analyzing all the data that all the AI are doing and all the telemetry that AI are doing, security budgets will do in We'll do in like orangey. Go like this. Technically, it's never that much. It's more like this. They're just gonna skyrocket. Because now you spin up more agents do this. I think the economics of it and the software licensing and the sheer cost of processing all that data is really what's going to cause it to like just not explode. I think they're going to do that, and then it's going to break down, and then they're going to find the sweet spot where they've got the AIs enhancing humans instead of trying to replace them. That's kind of where I think all this is going. But yeah, for real, if this turns out to be some M. Night Shyamalan, George R.R. Martin, he wasn't really the bad guy after all, I'm going to die laughing. Literally die. Literally and figuratively. Hang on one sec, guys. I just realized Peaches has been outside the entire stream. I thought Sock was going to let her in. I got to go let her in. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Hang on a sec. Give me Peaches. I wasn't pooping, damn it. I literally was just going to let Peaches inside. So she always, I don't know what changed. She used to just be totally chill. I'd let her out after the stream was over and everything was fine. And now she comes through and like the stream, as soon as I hit the go live button, or within 30 minutes of that, she's like, I need to go outside right now. And she's like in a panic. And so I just started proactively putting her outside at the start of the stream. And I thought Sock was going to let her in, but she didn't know she was out there, so she didn't let her in. What's a live cyber threat map intel? So that one here, so on the Be Right Back screen here, this is from a company called Checkpoint, and they do lots of firewalls and routers and things like that. So they're collecting network, what they consider to be like threat or anomaly telemetry, and then they put that in real time on the cyber threat map. So you get a rough source destination based on GeoIP, which isn't super reliable, but that's what it's showing. It's like, hey, it looked like there was an attack launched from this place on the globe to this place on the globe. In reality, it might get you to the right, it'll probably get you to the right country, and that's about it. In fact, there was a funny story about how bad GeoIP is, that this poor lady who happens to be like in the dead geographic center of the United States, that's where her farm is. GeoIP companies, when they didn't have anything else, defaulted to her farm because it was just happened to be right in the dead center of the United States. And she got so much mail, like cease and desist letters, like you're infringing on our copyrights, you're sharing, torrents, and you're doing all this other stuff. Until finally, she had to go, if I remember correctly, she had to go sue the GeoIP databases so they'd stop putting her info in there and stop targeting her farm. GeoIP's complete BS most of the time. It is. It really is. Hey, Peaches. Who's a good girl? She came in and decided to drink, and it's not even that hot. She's like, I gotta drink water, like there's no water left in the world. It'd be a bizarre plot twist if she really was doing all this stuff. I know, right? Plot twist, she actually had a server farm in the basement. All right. Let's see. We got about a little over 30 minutes left in the stream. Let me see what else we've got in here. Might do this one. Actually, let's go look at the payroll pirates. This is from the guys over at SpoofGuard. Payroll pirate attacks. 7 Storm 2755 tactics. Let's see. Payroll pirate attacks, also known as payroll redirection fraud, occur when an attacker gains access to an employee's payroll or HR account and change banking details to divert salary payments. So unlike traditional financial fraud, these attacks don't target banks directly. Instead, they exploit employees and internal HR systems. They typically unfold as attackers launch phishing campaigns to steal the employee's credentials. They log into the payroll system undetected. Banking details are modified. Salaries are redirected to a fraudulent account, and the victims don't even notice until payday. And the techniques become increasingly popular due to its low risk and high reward for cybercriminals. So a group dubbed Storm 2755 has been identified as a key player in these kind of attacks. Their operations are highly targeted and focus specifically on Canadian organizations. According to Microsoft, Storm 2755 uses a combination of phishing detection bypass techniques and domain impersonation detection evasion to trick employees into revealing sensitive credentials. So their attack chain is, they do reconnaissance. So the attackers gather employee data from social media or breaches. They do a domain impersonation, which is they create a fake domain mimicking the legit companies. They provide phishing email delivery for employees to receive convincing emails. They do credential harvesting for the victims. They basically trick them to going into the fake site and entering their HR portal credentials. And then they'll do account takeovers where the attackers access the payroll systems. And then they'll redirect the payments and then they cash out. Funds are transferred and laundered. And the entire process can happen in just a few days, making early phishing detection essential. So why specifically Canadian employees? Canada has been the primary target due to several factors: high digital adoption in payroll systems, large enterprise workforce, strong currency value. Is it though? I don't know. Increasing reliance on remote work tools. Additionally, many organizations lack robust domain surveillance and automated domain takedown service mechanisms, allowing malicious domains to stay active for longer than they should. So for domain impersonation, there's one critical component of Storm 2755 strategy. Attackers register domains that look nearly identical to the legit ones, such as slight spelling variations. I mean, that's nothing new. Changing the top level domain, yeah. Use of hyphens or extra characters, I mean, that's pretty bad, and companies should be looking out for stuff like that, especially if it's like, this is usually referred to as typo squatting, right? It's a typo in the domain. Slight misspelling, slight variation, yeah. So it's like Indian scammers that Scammer Payback and Kitabongo fight. Oh yeah, dude, their videos are great. One Canadian right now is 73 USD. Well, I mean, compared to a lot of other currencies, yeah, that would be pretty strong. I just like to riff on Canada all the time. I have some family up there from, like some very extended family. Let's see. Practical tips. I was hoping there's gonna be more to this article. So to remind everybody, I don't read these articles ahead of time. I kind of glance at them real quick, and I hope it's gonna be cool. But there's nothing super neat about this, except for the fact that they're doing some interesting phishing stuff and bypasses for detecting the fraudulent domains. Let's see. Sign trusted abused proxy execution. Yeah, let's go look at this. This was a recent blog post from the guys over at TrustedSec. In fact, recent as today. Let's see. Signed, trusted, and abused. Proxy execution via WebView 2. Ooh. Zoom in on this a little bit more. So in today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, Windows and its ecosystem of applications are transforming faster than ever, often leaving the door open for new exploitation techniques. Microsoft's Edge WebView 2 runtime, which with its presence on hundreds of millions of Windows endpoints, is an integral part of this attack surface and has gone largely unnoticed by both defenders and attackers. That's a questionable statement because I know a lot of people on both sides who are like, how do I stop you from abusing WebView 2? And how can we abuse WebView 2 better? Yeah, even Bobby's like, oh God, WebView 2. Largely unnoticed is a bit of a stretch. So this article provides an offensive security perspective on WebView 2's runtime, including architectural weaknesses, existing vulnerabilities, and exploitation methods. All right, Windows apps. I hate this so much. Modern Windows apps are store-delivered, sandboxed applications built as a container for a web-based application that could run on Windows endpoints as a standalone executable. This differs from traditional applications that require first installing a series of files and dependencies onto the endpoint before being used. Yeah, I think they're kind of really taking the idea of what Mac OS does, where everything in the app is contained into basically one logical container. Microsoft's got the best BS in their docs. Oh, do they ever? So a Windows app is lighter in size and faster. Debatable, because they're basically Electron apps. Basically, it's operating as if it was a web app. Yeah. What are you gonna do with all that RAM, bro? Well, before AIs, I was just running a lot of Chrome tabs. The shifts to signed and trusted applications that offer runtime integrity, safeguards, smart app control, and cleaner permission prompts, and reducing risk from legacy installers, COM add-ins, dropped drivers, or third-party dependencies. So in another article, Proxying Your Way to Code Execution, I talked about how these applications do not have third-party or external add-ons that reside in user-controlled areas like app data. It's not possible to do any DLL hijacking attacks in the traditional sense. Even with elevated permissions, it's not possible to access or write to these folders. So Windows apps are becoming more common in replacing legacy apps, and that includes business applications as well. I hate them so much. Examples are Outlook, hate it. Word, hate it. Excel, hate it. Teams, hate it. Hold on. Did I post that? Damn it, I didn't. If I had a copy of it. Hang on one sec. See if I can find something real quick. Oh, I don't have it on. Okay, I can't get it right now. It was a meme. It was this lady, and it said a picture of an old lady. It says, 110-year-old Turkish lady reveals her secrets for long life.
Warning. Virus infection alert.
Oh, perfect. Because I want all the Shy Hat frogs to hear this. Welcome in, Raiders. Oh, okay. I was just telling them about a meme. All my hip-hop hackers. Hip-hop hack, hip-hop hack. It was a meme because we're talking about Windows apps, like the actual like dedicated like little containers that Windows is all installing right now. And all these things, basically all these Microsoft things that are set up as it with a few other specialties. But then we got to Teams and it reminded me of a meme I saw earlier today. And it's this picture of a very elderly lady. And the headline on the picture says, 110-year-old Turkish woman reveals her secret for a long life. And then her quote is, I never once used Microsoft Teams. Hey, no problem, Shayat. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate y'all, folks. Y'all are coming in at a good time, actually, because we're still at the beginning of this article. This is one from the guys over at Trusted Sec. Oh, I've been forgetting to drop the article links. Here. There you go. So this is the article we're currently reading. And it's about abusing these, basically, Microsoft apps and how they use WebView 2, which is a web rendering engine runtime that exists inside of Windows 11. I don't know if it was in Windows 10. I think it was. Maybe that was just WebView, and then they made WebView 2 for 11. I don't remember. But anyway, so there's lots of applications. Basically, anything you install from the Microsoft Store is going to be one of these. Let's see. So the apps work great in running their content in an isolated container, but all depend on the Microsoft's Edge WebView 2 runtime, which opens an attack vector. So what is WebView 2? It's a runtime which is Chromium-based browser engine that can be utilized by Microsoft or Windows applications to render web content without the requiring of operating a new browser window or loading an external application. This enables the execution of web applications locally without the need to port them to a conventional GUI-based Windows application that requires an extensive installation process, thus enabling the integration of web technologies such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript into Windows applications without the requirement of opening the web browser. So this enables displaying dynamic web content, reusing web-based UI components, and ensuring consistent rendering across platforms. Gross. Still hate it. So what makes it problematic? So from an attacker perspective, WebView 2 presents an interesting target. The Windows apps are self-contained to prevent loading of third-party add-ons and requiring external libraries while relying on WebView 2 to render the application. But WebView 2 is not designed in the same way. This means that despite their strengths, Windows apps are still susceptible to DLL sideloading because WebView 2 is susceptible to DLL sideloading attacks. More specifically, this is due to a DLL called Domain Actions. So the Domain Actions DLL is a Microsoft signed DLL that's part of the Microsoft Edge Domain Actions component, which is a library used internally by Edge to support domain-related logic inside the browser and any application that embeds the WebView 2 engine. So documentation on this library is limited, but this DLL handles domain reputation checks, manage security policy decisions involving the domains, support Microsoft Smart Screen, and executes domain-based actions required by the browser or embedded web views. Thank you, sweetie. Sock brought me some tea. Tasty. Get it? It's tasty. WebView 2, it's bundled, it's bundling IE again, even after the judge said no. I know, right? Let's be honest, IE will never truly die. You can't kill it. In fact, it's been around after we're dead. Yeah, probably. It is delicious. That's right. Dude, I don't know what it is, Rabbit, but so there's a phenomenon in genetics known as epigenetics, where you might have a gene for something, but it doesn't express until certain environmental factors happen. I am 100% convinced that the dad jokes is an epigenetic phenomenon. As soon as your kids are born, that's an environmental stimuli that turns on the dad joke gene and just starts firing, and you can't help it. You can't. Maybe it's driven by some kind of neurotransmitter boost that you get from your kids. You get lots of oxytocin and some other things. Maybe that's just what happens. Yes. I'm serious, Master. Dad joke epigenetics. I swear it's in there. And when it's finally proved right, I want all of y'all to clip that and then go share the clip. Hey, by the way, this random nerd on Twitch called this back in 2025. So, and I want you to say that, set a reminder, because it's probably going to happen sometime like 2047 or something crazy like that. You know, cyberpunk's going to finally be realized. And, oh wait, that wasn't 2747. Anyway, and it's going to come around. Oh, it is 2026. Damn, I'm old. That's the key. After birth, women lactate, men start emitting jokes. Both things that sustain your children. They love dad jokes. Especially Agent Zero. He's starting to like kind of get the idea of puns. So they're funny. Hey, Keys, thanks for coming online. I don't believe you. Still, human psychology alone could explain the same switch without touching genetics. I don't know, man. Maybe. I don't know. Having kids changes your worldview in fundamental ways. That's true. It does. It very much does. Kids are a very creative, destructive process, right? Because they will, a lot of stuff that you formerly thought was important, then you have children and they just blow that out. And then only the really important stuff tends to survive. So anyway, back to the hacky nerdy stuff. Let's see. So necessary, hidden, and vulnerable. So because the Windows apps rely on that MS Edge WebView 2 executable to render the embedded content, Domain Actions DLL is loaded by the Windows app when they spawn into Edge View 2. And basically as a child process. So the problem with that is that Domain Actions exists outside the sandboxed application and is installed and loaded from a user writable directory in local app data. This means that it's possible to perform the traditional DLL hijack attack that MS Edge WebView 2 will load into its process memory when one of the secure Windows apps launches. So this bypasses modern application allow listing controls as domain actions is required for WebView 2 to run. In addition, an added benefit for attackers is that Windows apps' own sandbox can make it difficult for defensive software to fully see telemetry inside the container's app. RIP. We added this really cool new thing. Cool, what kind of telemetry can we get for it? Telemetry? Yeah, exactly. What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef. So when we're driving out to the races, right? The ATV races. Agent Zero will be in the back, and we'll see lots of cattle farms driving through very rural Texas, right? And he'll see cows laying down. He's like, "Hey, Daddy, look, ground beef." And then he'll see cows walking. He's like, "Hey, Daddy, look, walking steaks." I know, I love this meme. This meme is so high quality for everything. The better one I saw was like this turned into like a floor jack, and it was AI, and it was tipping the whole stack over. Oh, too good. All right, let's see here. So going back to the article, so where it gets interesting is while numerous apps rely on this DLL, multiple copies of the DLL can be installed in various places under local app data, depending on the application. And while some use the same path, the DLL can also be found in numerous different locations. In addition, because of how necessary this DLL is to WebView, if the DLL is not present in the location, the application will install the DLL itself, ensuring it's always there. Oh, that's funny. So how could this be weaponized? Let's see. This screenshot demonstrates this attack by executing arbitrary code, and in this case, a simple Rust Hello World program. The malicious DLL includes a definition file that proxies valid function calls to the renamed original DLL, which in this case was domain actions old DLL. So here's what happens, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know how DLL hijacking works. Let me clear all this stuff out real quick. All of my little weird fever dream graphs. Get rid of that, get rid of that. So when a process gets loaded in Windows, right? So when a proc loads, first thing it's going to do is it's going to go down to the file system and it's going to start looking for DLLs, right? Hey, bro, you like them? You got them DLLs? And the file system is going to start spreading out in a predictable hunt path, looking for those DLLs. So what you can do is, if you know that this process is going to be looking for, DLLA, right? Then what you do is you put something higher up. So let's say DLLA actually lives like down here, really, really low in the hunt order. So what you do is you put your bad DLL somewhere up here with that same name. So we'll call this bad DLLA, right? And then, but this DLL actually has functions that you need to expose, and they have to go working, right? So if they're not working, the program's going to crash and nothing's really going to happen. So what you do is you put forwarders in here. So you proxy all those requests, all the functions that DLL exposes, and you say, oh, by the way, load this DLL, and then just forward that traffic, those requests over to this one. And so this way, when the process calls the DLL, they just get proxied forward to the actual DLL that can go in and do its work. So DLL hijacking and proxying are big deals in this. If you didn't want the process to work, you could just put something higher up in the hunt path for it to hit that. But a lot of times you want to be more quiet than that. You don't want to go crashing programs because that's a dead giveaway. Something's not right on the system. Yes, it has a very, so Band mentioned it has a very well-defined hunt order. I'm not going to remember it offhand. I remember it's like the local file where the process executed, and then it starts going through a bunch of system directories where it's looking for it. I always have to go look that up. I do not have that committed to memory. Yeah, pretty much you're man in the middle in the DLL widget. You're right. You're absolutely correct. The best kind of correct. Let's see. Yeah, same thing in Linux too. Yep. All right. Let's see. Okay, so he's got his malicious DLL, which is a Rust hello world. Just the fact it's written in Rust makes it malicious. Ugh. So the malicious DLL includes a definition file that proxies valid function calls to the renamed DLL. And so we can see this in here. So these are the proxied functions in here. Sending them over. Since the malicious DLL is placed in the appropriate folder, launching any application that invokes WebView 2 results in the execution of the attacker's payload, displaying the hello world message. Ta-da! So what makes WebView 2 a high-value target is that not only initial access, but also persistence, as these applications are always running. To further illustrate the impact, the second example uses shellcode from a commercially available C2 framework, Cobalt Strike, to establish a remote channel to the endpoint. Yeah. Now, there is one catch with this, right? Is that these WebView 2 processes, WebView DOS, there's a ton of these. And so if a bunch of these start spawning, every single one is going to go down this path. And every single one's going to hit your bad DLL. Which means if you've got this thing set up to call back to a C2, right? Every single one of those. So all of a sudden you could just be flooded with C2 connections. So usually what you do there is you put some kind of like mutation, or not that, what is it? What's the command? You put a kind of lock file in here and it checks to see, hey, it's not really a lock file, but you put a lock in there. And then if that lock exists, then your DLL doesn't go spawn a new one. So you don't have like a bajillion C2 callbacks come back in here. Once you get a stable one, it just kind of stays there. Mutex. Thank you, band. See, that's just one of the many reasons I love having you around. Yes, it puts a mutex lock in there. So if that mutex lock gets hit, then it knows, oh, okay, we already have an established C2 process in there. And it goes through. Just a little FYI. So Microsoft's response: after completing the initial research to assessing the extent, I reported these findings to Microsoft in October 2025. And what did they say? So he found this in September, informed Microsoft. MSRC confirmed the behavior and warranted a remediation and possible CVE. Ooh. Although really, I call CVE snitch points. So that's what they are. They're snitch points. Let's see. Provided a secondary update to Microsoft indicating a new Windows apps that were vulnerable. Provided a third update. And then on December 3rd, received a message from Microsoft indicating that they had a reserved CVE and confirmed the Edge vulnerability, which will be published once this is fixed and validated. Okay. So as of March 16th, Microsoft had reviewed the case and reclassified the impact to be below the threshold to award a CVE. Ooh, I saw it coming. It's the plot twist you always see coming. As a result, Microsoft will not be implementing a fix at this time, but may in the future. So what does this mean for enterprises? It means these vulnerabilities remain present in both Windows 10 and 11 as forever days. I've never heard that term before. I love that. A forever day exploit. It's not an exploit, it's a feature. Because what's the real attack vector here? I mean, the real attack vector is once you get onto that system, it's going to allow you to kind of pivot over to other ones. It's really mostly useful for persistence. So, yeah. I do think it's kind of funny, though. More information about DLL exploitation tools called Face Dancer can be found here. Face Dancer is kind of cool, but it does some weird stuff to your DLLs too. So sometimes it's just simpler to just go run it, go spin up the DLL yourself. Yeah. I know DLL hijacking isn't technically a vulnerability, but it's not going to stop me from abusing it. It's not. It's not. Yeah. Now the kicker here, though, SysOS, is that it's not going to get you. Well, hold on. Let me think about this. It's typically not going to get you directly into the parent process, right? Because you're probably gonna be spawning that as something else. I mean, technically you could, but for the most part, you're not. However, you are going to be able to act as the local user very simply doing that. So this would be more like mostly useful for persistence or for what is it? Persistence or some lateral user movement. So yeah, Yeah, the kicker is always what's the delivery mechanism. Very true. Very true. All right. Interesting. I was hoping there was going to be a little bit more to that. This was stuff I was largely already aware of, but still cool to kind of go over it again. I'm not pooping, band. I'm sitting right here. All right. We got a few minutes left. Actually, I wanted to watch this video in here because it kind of illustrates one of my... Wait, the ads? No, there's no ads right now. Band just got the bad... All right, we'll give it a second here. But this is really interesting legal content around right to repair, which also indirectly affects basically all the idea of hacking, which is making things do things that you want them to do differently. And I am a big hater on... Oh, there, the ads just ended. Okay, cool. I'm a big hater on you will own nothing and be happy with it. No, when I buy something, I'm not buying a fucking license to it. I want to own it outright. I don't want your terms and services. I don't want any other BS like that. So this was kind of an important one here that I thought should be brought up. Let me see. Do I have desktop audio on? Doop. There we go. And this is about tractors. Tractors. Something you would think doesn't need to have closed source proprietary firmware running on them. No, but John Deere took this like in a really big way. I see any licensed product as including a license to hack the product, even if the EULA denies it. Oh, no, right? Yeah. So here, let's check this one out.
I'm in the middle of a winter wheat field here in central Washington state, where the farmers that manage and operate these fields have spent millions of dollars buying their tractors.
He's not exaggerating on the price.
The truth is, they don't really own them because the company that sold them that equipment, it doesn't really want them to own them. This video is...
That rig right there, if I remember correctly, is easily $500,000 right here. So these guys are, they're not spending chump change, right? And so if I spend $500K on something, it's more than that, Gumby? Damn. I was trying to adjust for inflation in my head because stuff like this used to be like $250K a while ago when I was younger. And so I doubled the price hoping I was going to be right. But yeah, if I'm spending that much, I damn well better own it.
Isn't just about tractors. It's about how one company found a legal way to put a time limit on ownership. And if they get away with this, everyone else will too. Last week, John Deere wrote a $99 million check, and the internet lost its mind celebrating. Right to repair advocates, farm groups, tech freedom people, all calling it a historic win, and on the surface, it looks like one. But pull back the curtain a little, and this story gets a lot darker.
Yeah, don't even get me started on property taxes, banned. Those are an absolute racket. I went through and I was looking at my mortgage, and my mortgage breakdown is roughly, I want to say it was 30%, 33, 35% maybe, is escrow for taxes and insurance. And the vast bulk of that is for taxes. So that means even if I pay off my house note doesn't go to zero. I'm still on the hook for 35% of that. It's insane. No, property taxes is basically, yeah, renting your own home after you own it. Anyway.
In 2022, 18 separate lawsuits got consolidated into one federal case in Chicago. Farmers, co-ops, independent repair shops, all making the exact same claim. John Deere had built a system that made it almost impossible to fix your own equipment without going through their dealer network. And that network was expensive, it was slow, and it was the only game in town. The lawsuit...
That's why I always remembered this line from the movie Hackers where he said, hacking is more than a skill set, it's a survival method. It kind of is. It kind of is, because farmers, there was a whole scene around people going through and hacking tractors because there were firmware locks and all the other proprietary error codes and other BS they had on them. Oh, link to it? Yeah, one sec. I got you, boo.
Suit said that it was deliberate, that John Deere conspired with its dealers to lock out competition and trap farmers in a captive repair market.
True.
4 years later, Deere settled $99 million. And they agreed, for the first time, to open access to the digital tools that farmers and independent shops need to actually diagnose and repair their own equipment.
That settlement
Now,
is a
farmers
pittance.
fought for years. They got money, they got access, and John Deere blinked. That's a win. To understand what $99 million actually means.
Oh yeah, Ben, we just talked about that. You might have stepped away, but yeah, we were covering that and speculating about if the cost of agents is going to basically be like Netflix and streaming, where everything. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we were talking about that. Like, we're speculating that the cost of agents is going to skyrocket like cable, or basically like all the streaming services did, right? Netflix was crushing it because they had the best system, and then everybody wanted a slice of the pie. Damn it, I'm not pooping. I'm sitting right here. You weirdos.
You need to understand what John Deere was actually doing. Modern Deere equipment runs on proprietary.
I love Louis Rossman.
Everything critical. The engine management, the diagnostics, the error codes, all of it is locked behind a software wall that only their authorized dealers could access. Your tractor throws a code, you can see that something's wrong. You just can't know what. You can't fix it. You can't even look. They didn't sell you a tractor, they sold you a subscription to the right to keep using it.
Gag.
And when it broke, and it would break, you had one option. Call the dealer. Wait for the dealer. Pay whatever the dealer charged. Now in 2019, a farmer in Missouri had his fertilizer spreader sitting at a John Deere dealership for 28 days.
This is the saddest
During
part of this story
planting
that I heard.
season. That's the one window that determines your entire year. That's not a breakdown, that is a business model. Now, the USPIRG estimates that repair restrictions across the entire farm equipment industry cost farmers something like $4.2 billion every single year. John Deere's settlement.
You want to know part of the reason why your food bill's going up so much? Because everybody knows how expensive things are in the grocery. It's bullshit like that.
Covers 8 years of conduct. $99 million against 8 years of a $4.2 billion annual problem. And that $99 million, it doesn't go straight to farmers. Attorneys eat first.
Look at this value here. This is almost a rounding error for John Deere. Over the time period where everything was going on, they made $33.6 billion, and they paid $0.099 billion, right? It's bogus.
$1 million, it doesn't go straight to farmers. Attorneys eat first. Then the lead plaintiffs, litigation costs, administrative fees. Whatever's left gets divided across thousands of farms. Individual farmers are probably getting checks that won't even cover a single dealer visit. That, to me, sounds like a loss. Now, I'm here in the middle of editing, and I thought I could throw in a little personal story.
Dang, so the 2024 to 25 models range from $550,000 to $650,000. Damn. Ugh. That piece of equipment costs more than my house. That's nuts. Crooks always know how to pay the lawyers first. Pretty much, a lot of times I look at settlements as getting the lawyers off your back and then letting the lawyers go through and convince the plaintiffs that it's a good deal. A lot of times, because the plaintiffs, they're getting shafted. Oh, I know, band. Eat me. Hold on, so he had an update here.
In the middle of editing, and I thought I could throw in a little personal story about John Deere. I actually own John Deere equipment and tractors, bulldozer, generators, and other things. And I wanted to explain what it looks like when the system actually works. Because here in the valley, I'm up on top of a mountain, I can call down to our local John Deere dealer and they'll loan me tools. They'll let me walk back in their shop. They'll show me how to fix things. They'll sell me the parts, let me do the work myself. They'll send mechanics up. when I'm lost or confused and I can't fix something and take care of it for me. These guys are fantastic. So when the system does work right, John Deere is an incredible company because the equipment itself is really good. There's a reason why John Deere is so popular, but it's that business model in that anti-right to repair that is the real problem. And so when it works, it's fantastic. When it's not working, it is an absolute nightmare. And I do feel for those farmers that are stuck in that situation. Anyway, back to the video.
I just think about the farmer, though, that lost his entire basically planting season because his stuff was stuck in the shop because he couldn't fix it himself. And if you've never been around farmers, they are 100% all about fixing their own stuff. And people you wouldn't think have a ton of technical know-how get learned very fast to go through this, because that's a lot of the folks I go to the races with. And their technical understanding is really high up there. It's just they do it whenever it's necessary for them. Yeah, get her done.
The money was never really the point, though. The access commitment is, and that part is real. For the first time, John Deere agreed to make the diagnostic software available, the repair documentation, the tools that independent shops have been locked out of for years. Farmers can now take their tractors and their equipment somewhere other than a Deere dealership and actually get it fixed. That changes the market. That's what people have been fighting for. The 99 million is just the fine. The access is the victory. And that sounds more like a win. This commitment lasts 10 years. 10 years. Then it's over. No enforcement mechanism. Nobody has explained what happens on day 3,651.
I missed that part because I watched this video earlier today. I didn't realize this was only a 10-year commitment. That is enough time to cycle out to the next generation and make people forget what happened. It doesn't take a long time. 10 years and some of these folks will completely forget, and then it comes up again and it's going to be a whole new issue. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really am happy that this stuff is actually being like, hey, we're coming up and we're looking at where we're going with these things and giving you the tools to go through and fix it. Dude, I actually had an idea for a company. And if anybody wants to steal this idea, go ahead. The whole idea for the company was it makes robust, long-lasting stuff that Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yes, that's right, band. But everything on the equipment is basically like, here's diagrams. We'll sell you parts to fix it. We're going to sell you instruction manuals on how to fix it. And start with something simple, like a dryer and a washer, right? You can't hardly get a lot more simpler than that. And then expand out from there. I even had a name picked out because the whole idea was that these things were supposed to be technologically advanced, but not like tied to everything and stuck to a licensing model. So I was going to call them Dumb Things. The whole company was going to be called the Dumb Things Foundry, or DTF for short. I think it's a great idea. Y'all should run with this and get down with the DTF.
Access they owed farmers from the beginning, the access that courts and regulators and thousands of people spent years fighting for, agreed to, temporarily, with no consequence for closing it back up. They didn't open the cage, they propped the door open and said, check back in a decade. And here's something almost nobody reported. The American Farm Bureau, that's the organization that is supposed to represent farmers, previously agreed not to support right to repair legislation. Now, in exchange for diagnostic tools that advocates said fell way short, the people farmers trusted to fight this battle had already left the table before the fight started. That monopoly didn't just lock out the mechanics, it locked out the advocates too. And then, about 2 weeks before this settlement dropped, John Deere was at the White House, the Great American Agriculture Celebration. Their brand new tractor on the South Lawn, standing next to President Trump, being celebrated as a partner in farmer freedom. Same company, active federal antitrust case still pending, a 9-figure check about to go out the door, talking about wins for farmers.
Yeah.
So who won? Farmers got a fraction of what was taken, on a timeline that attorneys will monetize more than they will. They got access, real access, to tools that they should have had from day one. For 10 years with no guarantee after that. John Deere paid less than 3% of what this cost farmers in a single year, admitted nothing, walked into the White House as a hero, and reserved the right to close the door again in 2036. This is what it looks like when you fight a company that has more lawyers than you have acres. It's not a win, it's not a loss, it's a settlement, which is what you offer when losing starts to cost too much.
Love that line,
and you want
more
to set the
lawyers than
terms
acres.
before someone else does. In 2026, there are a lot of states that are working on more right to repair legislation. And even though Washington, D.C., the president signs an executive order supporting right to repair, it doesn't feel, to, at least to me, that right to repair is solidifying. I feel like,
Unfortunately, a lot of times those kind of executive orders, they don't carry any teeth to them, really. So it's like basically saying like, hey, I think this is a good idea, and then that's the end of it.
we're moving, but sometimes we're moving backwards. I don't know. That's just the way that I feel. Let me know how you feel. Drop a comment. I'll take a look at them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.
There you go. We need the open source tractor now is what we need. All right. Unfortunately, guys, that is where we got to wrap it up for tonight. That brings us to the end of the stream. But I thought that was a really important story, especially because I want to go mess with my tech. I want to go tinker with it. Yeah, but there's not really a strong enforcement mechanism for it, unfortunately, Sisso. So, yeah, a lot of times they're really cool in idea, but not so much in that. Oh, let's see. Who's online right now? We actually have people online tonight. Let's go. What's Romans doing? By the way, guys, if you like this kind of hacker shenanigans type stuff, go check out InfoSec streams, because there's actually a lot of people on during the daytime, and they'll be listed up here. Cool. I guess he fixed the server. Ads. Damn you, Twitch. If the farmers really dislike it, they should boycott it. I agree, but sometimes it's like, sometimes that's the only name of the game in town. I just want to see what Romans is doing. He's doing some hack the box with Claude. I can see it right there. Let me see what he's doing here. Hold on, let me see who else is on right now. Tannis is always on, also on. We could always go right over to Tannis in here. Is he just doing this headless? What's he working on right here? Claude's just over here looking for flags. Hacking with AI. Yeah, but usually, I mean, yeah, now if you're sitting here looking and explaining what it's doing, that's kind of interesting. All right, what we'll do is we'll go right over to Tannis, because he's always talking about cool Linuxy stuff. I like him, and he's a great teacher too. He does a good job on that. All right, got the raid started. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, that's where I got to wrap it up for tonight. I got to still finish that damn report. It's in the final stages, but I got to get it over the finish line. Everyone, y'all have a fantastic rest of your week. Crushing It mode is still in full effect, so we do not finish the week weekly. We finish it strongly, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. I will catch you all on Saturday. We'll do some more Kubernetes hacking shenanigans, having fun. We'll be cluster the flucking and having a time. Oh, by the way, do me a favor, guys. When you get over to Tannis' stream, drop Hack the Planets and little happy hackers in there. And that's all I got for you guys. I want y'all to remember one very important thing. Two things. One, thanks for coming to hang out during the new stream, because y'all bring me lots of new perspectives on things, and I love it. It's fantastic. And the second thing I want y'all to remember is I love you. Peace.